What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to an episode of Unscripted. This is a new podcast I'm doing. You guys are used to seeing me on a real bodybuilding podcast, but I'm here with my guest, Johnny Lieberman, who I'm extremely excited to be talking to because I'm a huge car fan and he is uh, kind of like the man in the car world, I would say. Is that it? Can I say that?
One of many. One of
One
many.
of
Yeah,
many.
yeah. But thank you. Yeah. Hey, nice to be here.
Listen, I've been watching you. What can I say? 10 years? It feels like 10, maybe longer.
I've been doing this professionally for over 20. So yeah, somehow I've been paid money to drive cars and write about them and talk about them and make videos for 2 decades straight.
You
Um,
you literally have my dream job, by the way. Can we explain to get the guests watching what exactly your job entails?
yes. These days it's actually jobs. I'm freelance and I got my own YouTube channel now, Driving with Johnny.
Okay.
But I think I'm best known. I know I'm best known. I've been associated with Motor Trend
Okay.
for over 15 years. I started in July of 2010. I was a full-time employee until 2018. They made me a contractor,
Okay.
and then for various reasons I became a freelancer. But they're my outlet of choice, shall we say,
Sure.
for the last 18 months or so. And like, for instance, I just got back from Italy
Yeah.
where I was the only American invited to drive the Audi Concept C. So
Okay.
you might remember this car showed up a few months ago. Um, and it's a little 2-seat, hardtop convertible roadster, but
Okay.
really what it's doing is it's previewing the next iteration or the next design language from Audi. It's called
Okay.
Radical Simplicity, and both inside and out.
Yeah.
And so starting in around 2027, all future Audis will look like this thing.
So
Um,
I
oh,
got
go ahead. Yeah.
Matt. I got Matt, my producer. I don't know if you can hear him, or see him, but he's Matt. Can you pull up the Audi Concept C just so we can see what Johnny's talking about?
If you AUDI, but if you go to motortrend.com, my story went live like this morning at 3 a.m. because
Okay.
there was the Amazon web outage took
Oh,
us
that's
out
right.
yesterday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
So Motor Trend was frozen for 24 hours, but if motortrend.com, and you'll see some really good pictures of it that aren't the ones. So with concept cars, what they do is they'll show them. Yeah, there you go. Concept car we just drove is the most important. Yeah, click
Oh
on
my
that.
God, that's beautiful.
Yeah. And then go into see all photos, and you'll see some that are like on a mountain range. So yeah, this thing really works. We didn't know. We thought it. Oh yeah, there's me.
Yeah.
This is actually a cool photo. Stop for a second. So there's the Concept C with the roof down.
Right.
That's a replica of a 1936 Auto Union Type C, which
Sure.
is such an insane car.
Uh,
Um, Long story told, very short. When the Nazis came to power in 33, they said, we want to do two things with cars. One, we're going to build a people's car, a Volkswagen, and the
mhm.
rest is history. We know that story. The other is we're going to dominate racing in Europe. We're going to go faster than the Italians, faster than the British, to show the superiority, of German, whatever.
Right.
And so Mercedes had a bunch of really cool race cars at the time called Silver Arrows. And the people behind Auto Union, and Auto Union was 4 companies: Audi, DKW, Porsche, and Wanderer. I could go on Car Jeopardy and win. They went to Hitler essentially and said, "Hey, competition is even better. If you don't just give Mercedes money, give
Right.
us money."
Right.
And so they did, and they bought an old Porsche design for a race car that was the Type A, that he designed in 1932,
Yeah.
and that became the Auto Union Type A, the B, and then the C was really radical, and that's this one, 1936, 6-liter supercharged V16
No way.
behind the driver,
No way.
uh, 520 horsepower, and the Grand Prix regs for the Type C was it was 750 kilograms, which I think is 1,650 pounds.
That's insane,
It's
man.
insane. So the
Yeah.
car was essentially undrivable, except for one
Right.
guy named Bernd Rosemeyer, who sadly died trying to set a speed record in
Shocking.
the Type D.
Yeah.
Yeah, Type D was even faster. They knocked it back to a V12 because V16s are tricky. But
Right.
anyhow, I got to stare at this thing for hours in Italy. And then of course you'll see a 1999 Audi TT,
Right.
and
Right.
also the Audi R8 was part of the design inspiration, but just different picture. But
Sure.
so the Concept C is pulling from all these, the grill and sort of the titanium color off of the Type C,
Right.
a bit of just purity of design from the TT, and of course the R8 was Audi's Halo
Yeah.
supercar.
Yeah.
And this price wise won't be positioned as a Halo supercar. Performance wise, I drove it.
Right. Can you
It's
can you keep going through the pictures, Matt?
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead,
It's
Johnny.
yeah, no. It's an EV. Right now it has one motor in the rear. Oh, you can see right there the R8.
Yeah.
It's about this. It's a little bigger actually than the original R8. It's kind of close in size to the one that just went out of production. You can
Sure.
see the simple interior. Yeah, we drove it around this part of Italy that looks like Austria,
That's
in the
incredible.
Dolomites. Um, and yeah, the rear is the money shot. It's just
That's
so good.
beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's over 500 horsepower with just one motor. Obviously, they could put a second motor on the front axle. You'd get, you know,
Yeah.
this iteration would be over 900 horsepower, and it would be a monster. With 500 horsepower, and I drove that R8 you're looking at there. I drove it an hour before I drove the Concept C,
Hmm.
and the little Concept C already outperforms the old original R8. It's really really good. So Audi's the future is very exciting for Audi. And then if you
Johnny.
can imagine every other Audi you see kind of looking like this,
Yeah. Yeah.
in the same way that the R8 back in when they showed the concept, in 2003 it was called the Audi Le Mans Quattro concept.
Hmm.
Production car showed up in 2007, but then every Audi not only looked like the R8, but then every car developed a big giant grille and
Right.
got LED headlights. So it was really
Right.
influential.
Right. Do you think when you drive the EVs and you drive the R8 before it, how do you feel about that? Are you a purist in that you like the combustion engine and the exhaust and Matt, can you bring Johnny back?
Yeah, I love good cars. I don't really care what the powertrain is. Um, the last two cars I purchased, I bought a Rivian R1T pickup truck, and it's an EV. It's also an 835 horsepower EV.
Yeah.
And I bought a Toyota GR Corolla, which is a little 3-cylinder manual.
Right.
Um, so I just like good cars. There's so many great EVs that to me, just saying you hate EVs because they're EVs is you're missing out on what the best engineers are building.
Right.
Um, and so yeah, like, do I love a V12? Yeah. Do I love my quad motor pickup truck? Yeah. Um, did I drive the V8 R8 and the Concept C back to back? Yeah. Was one noticeably better as a driver's car? Yeah, the new one was
Yeah.
amazing.
So you
I
don't
love the
maybe,
old one. I
but you don't
real
like,
quick,
go
real
ahead.
quick.
Sorry.
I had dinner with the CEO of Audi,
Right.
Mr. Dolner, and I said, "Hey, just put the R8 back in production. It's perfect. Like it's great." But
Yeah.
I, this new one does. It is quicker with the top down. It actually you just like really fast EVs have their own sound, and it's kind of cool. And then with the top down, you're just really hearing nature, which is sort of unique.
Yeah.
Or I should say, kind of how cars used to be. People forget that like internal combustion cars didn't make a lot of noise until about 15 years ago. Like some
Right.
did. We had to
Yeah.
like remove the mufflers, and then it became this trend. Kind of started Jaguar and AMG. Only Ferraris really made any noise it was worth listening to. Everything else you
Right.
tried to muffle it because it sounded horrible. And then they realized, oh hey, we could do this. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, sorry.
But don't you feel like I get a visceral feeling from driving a car and hearing the exhaust and like, a Corvette's V8 or something like that. Like I enjoy the rumble of that kind of car. Do you
Me
not
too.
feel that?
I do, but I also I love I've been to Le Mans several times, and like hearing the Corvettes and the Cadillacs rip around and sound better than
Right.
everything else, like it's awesome.
Right.
Also, I've done wild stuff in my Rivian, and I love the way it
That's
makes
true.
me feel. And I love the
Right.
feel of that. I love the feel of like acceleration. You know, like
Yeah.
I have an Audi RS e-tron GT in my driveway right now, driving it for a week. It's 912 horsepower. I don't know if there's any quicker cars out there really,
Yeah. Yeah.
in terms of like A to B. And I love it. I love driving it. Like, and you
Right.
know, I spend a lot of time. Well, I spend some time pretending to be a race car driver. I'm not very good, but I spend a lot of time talking to very good race car drivers,
Right.
and like they like a dual clutch. In fact, they would love no gears, because having to shift gears just slows them down.
Right.
And you talk to them, all they want is a front end on a car that doesn't fail
Yeah.
and unlimited torque so they can jump out of corners as quickly as possible.
Sure.
So for me, you know, I kind of love good EVs. Bad EVs I hate just as much as I hate bad gas powered cars,
Right.
you know.
Right. I,
So yeah, like 100%. I love, you know, I love a great engine, and I
right.
just love great cars. I'm an omnivore. You know,
I
I'm not
wonder if
gonna.
you're so. I wonder if you're so far past the average person when it comes to driving cars that like you've driven so many amazing cars that, like you said, you just want to drive cars that are made well and they're fast and they perform well. Maybe you're past kind of like. Do you feel like you're past what the average guy wants? Because the average guy's like still can enjoy and still doesn't mind like a car like this the
Yeah,
debate I hear all the time is, are the EVs taking the soul out of the car? Like they're not as
yeah,
fun, maybe you don't have as much of a visceral feeling, maybe it's less driver and more car than it is the other way around.
sure. To me, and again, this is something quite personal, but the word soul is a bit of a trigger word to me, and I
Oh
find it
no.
like actually
Okay.
a little racist. And let me tell you why.
Okay.
When the Nissan GTR came out back in 2008 as a 2009 model, the
Right.
knock on it was, yeah, it's faster than everything else,
I remember that.
sure,
Yeah.
but it has no soul. Well, to me, that just meant it was Japanese and not German. Because if you think about the GTR,
No.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Twin turbo V6, all wheel drive, dual clutch.
Sure.
Current Porsche 911, twin turbo, flat six, but six cylinder, all wheel drive, dual clutch.
Right.
They were just ahead of the game,
Right.
and you know, everyone's like, "Oh, the computer's doing everything." All the computer did on that was figure out where to put the torque. Guess
Right.
what? That's what the Porsche does, and everyone else does the same thing.
Yeah.
Was the traction control sophisticated? Yes, but you could always turn it completely off.
Sure.
And by the way, in a McLaren, you can't really turn the traction control all the way off. But the
Yeah.
Nissan, you could. And so I always found soul, maybe racist is a bit harsh, but it's a bit of a weasel word
Okay.
when I don't like something, therefore it has no soul. Because what is soul?
The
Um,
way I took soul to mean when people
yeah,
said it to me or when I heard it meant that the driver was doing less than the car. And I
okay,
actually put the Porsche in the same category as the GTR is such a well-made car and engineered so well and has so many nanny systems and computer systems that the driver may like you could put anybody in one of those all-wheel drive cars and tell them to launch it and they're fine. If you put somebody
mhm,
in a a rear-wheel drive manual
sure.
whatever, it's going to take more skill. So I guess that's kind of the way
Sure.
I always put the word soul.
Yeah, again, I totally hear what you're saying. I do like a car where you can turn traction control totally off. I don't
Yeah.
like traction intervention.
Okay.
I just to me it's like, okay, you know, what is different of, like, let's say, just like, you know, the back to this Audi Concept C, like what does it do different than cars that aren't manuals, which is just an automatic transmission? Nothing, except
Okay.
it doesn't shift, so it's even quicker.
Right.
um so, you know, as far as a driver goes, if you're leaving it in automatic, it's really no different. And you know, again, assuming you could turn, I was driving this prototype. I have no idea what it can do, but
Right.
you know, I've driven plenty of EVs where you know, you can turn the traction off. Like there's this insane thing called the Porsche Taycan Turbo GT Weissach, which is a four-door with no rear seats that makes over 1,000 horsepower, and you can turn
Okay.
traction all the way off. And like, my God, is it hairy and fun? And
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, So am I working just as hard? And again, I go back to like what I was saying about race car drivers. In fact, you know what race cars use? They use
Hmm.
traction and stability control.
Right. Of course. Yeah.
Because they
Yeah.
don't want, like, yeah, it's very manly or whatever to like fight a car, but they don't want that. They want to go fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, look, you can make the argument like, do you need a manual transmission to really be a pure, enthusiast with full soul?
Right.
Okay, but
Yeah.
like that, and those cars are great. And again, the last car I bought was a manual. I like
Right.
them just fine.
Yeah.
I just think that like being so orthodox in one's thinking, where it has to be this or I can't have any fun.
Right.
It's like I just like it's like, uh, I used to be really involved in the beer world, and people say, "Oh, I don't like IPAs," or "I don't like this type of beer." It's like, well, to me, as long as it's well made, all beers can be delicious. I
Right.
like a
Right.
stout as much as I like a lager, as much as I like a sour beer. It's I just like cars,
Sure.
and as long as it's a good car, it's
Yeah.
fine.
I think I'm in
You
the
know,
same boat. I just like hearing the debate, and I like to hear what someone with your level of passion for cars and the amount of cars you've driven. I always like to hear. I always wanted to know your opinion on something like that. Someone with, you know what I mean? Because
yeah.
I get to hear Joe Blow's theory on it, but they don't get to drive every single car on earth like you do.
And look, if you talk to the internet, I am in the big pocket of Big Battery. I am on Rivian's payroll, even though somehow I pay them $1,700 a month for the
Yeah.
privilege of driving their vehicle.
Right.
I'm on the take. Um, I do think like what I always try and tell people is they're like, I hate all EVs, and I go, well, like let's just say you're RAV4, because what do most people actually buy?
Right.
They
Right.
buy Model Ys and RAV4s and pickup trucks and
Right.
Honda CRVs. If you took your RAV4 and just made it electric, did nothing else to it, you double the horsepower, you lower the center of gravity by over a foot. So it's quicker.
Yeah.
You get rid of the horrible transmissions they put in everyday cars, which are either just sloppy, terrible automatics or the worst CVTs, the worst thing you can drive,
Right.
right? You have no gears, so no shifting, so they're quicker, they're quieter, they're cleaner,
Mhm.
by lowering the center of gravity, they handle better inherently. If I noticed this back in 2012 when I first drove. Actually, before that, 2011. God, what was the name of that car? Coda. Horrible,
Okay.
horrible electric car. It was an old Mitsubishi platform,
Sure.
and it sucked in every way, and it went 5 miles, but it handled really well because all the
Yeah.
weight is below your feet, you know.
Sure.
And just
Sure.
by lowering the center of gravity, even though EVs are heavy, they happen to drive incredibly well because they have a
Yeah.
low CG. So, you
Mhm.
know, like I would say to your average enthusiast who tells me that I'm a sellout loser and in the pocket of big electricity or whatever, like just replace if you replace all the RAV4s and Corollas with cheap. You don't want to make them more expensive. You want them still to be cheap.
Right.
Electric vehicles, and like the Porsche GT3, can it have a naturally aspirated 9,000 RPM manual forever? Hell yeah, I'm
Right.
totally cool with that.
Right.
But
Right. Right.
like dying on the hill of I need my RAV4 to have a weak ass Atkinson cycle 2.4 liter inline four with a dopey transmission that sucks.
Yeah.
What that is soul? That's what
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
gonna fight me on, you know?
Yeah.
And and,
Um.
and you real quick, and you look at
No. No.
like
Go
a
ahead.
Rolls Royce,
Sure.
um the Spectre, like it's perfect. That two things. One, I maintain if you took a Wraith, a Rolls Royce Wraith owner, and
Right.
you got him, blindfold him to get him in the car, and you somehow didn't tell him what they were driving, they wouldn't know the difference. Except that when they accelerated, it was twice as quick as the V12.
Sure. I
It,
don't
it's
know. I don't know what the Spectre is. Matt, can you pull that up?
yeah, Rolls Royce Spectre. It's their big two-door electric
Is
coupe.
it new?
It's like 18 months old, something like
Oh,
that.
okay. So it's pretty new.
And it's everything you want a Rolls Royce to be: silent, powerful, no smells, no, you know what I mean. There's
Right. Right.
no
Right.
chance of exhaust ever affecting your comfort. It's exactly the same. Uh, yeah, it's exactly the same as like a Rolls Royce in terms of every other thing. It's
So
just
it almost looks a little bit like a Wraith.
it looks like a Wraith. It's bigger. It's much bigger than
Yeah.
a Wraith. But
Click on the black. Click on that black one there, Matt. It's like second from the right. Yeah, I think that's it, right?
yep, that's good.
Yeah. So that's it's standard Rolls Royce. So that's just electric. That's the only difference.
Yeah, and like you know, like I was laughing with Leno. Leno bought one a little while ago, and he bought a Mustang GTD, which is the
Yeah.
same price Ford Mustang, you know. Um and they're probably as quick as each other in a straight line. Obviously the
Right.
Mustang's
In
gonna
a
handle
straight
way
line. Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
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 But it's like it's like that is a better powertrain solution than the twin turbo V12 is, because with the twin turbo V12 they're trying to make it drive like an electric, right? They want to hide the
Right.
shifts, they want to hide the noise, they want to hide the smells. Who wants to take a Rolls Royce to a gas station? Like, you charge it in your garage, and nobody
Right.
drives Rolls Royces very far. You're not going on road trips. Like, it's kind of the
Right.
perfect application. So
Yeah. Johnny, I want to ask you, how long have you been at, like, how long has this been like a lifelong thing for you? Did you grow up loving cars, or did this, you
yeah,
fall into this backwards?
well, that's a good story actually. But yeah, look, I've always been not only like really into cars, but like I had crazy I don't want to say encyclopedic, but I could, from a very young age, my mom could point at any car on the road and I could tell her
Right.
how many camshafts it had.
Holy
That's
shit.
something I was into.
Right.
Probably on the spectrum somewhere, but I always knew that, like, the displacement, like all that stuff. I knew what transmission was in every car. I just was I'm
Right.
terrible with like anything else in life, but if you
Yeah.
say like, a 1988 Nissan Pulsar, I'll be like, oh yeah, that's a 1.6 liter single overhead cam. Like I just remember that
That's
stuff.
crazy.
Um, so so I've always been good at that. I actually did a lot of things before I started doing this professionally.
Okay.
So I'm 50 years old. I started doing this when I was 30.
Okay.
I was out of college. I got into computers, for lack of a better term, like software, really. I rode that. I was kind of living in I was living in San Francisco after college. Went out to New York, worked for a software company, and it was really kind of awesome because it was like before the .com. It was the .com
Yeah.
boom before the bust.
Yeah.
So I was, mid-20s, making over $100,000 a year, like
Yeah.
traveling the world. It was awesome, man.
Yeah.
And then, 2001, the bubble popped, world changed, 9/11, all that. And I wound up kind of falling back on, I had a lot of art training, and
Uh-huh.
I wound up being involved with an art gallery. I was like a co-owner of an art gallery. Wound up that failed, or at least my part of it failed. The gallery is actually doing very well now, but when I was there, it's not.
Yeah.
Worked at an art school. I was a webmaster at a big art school, and I was happy enough. And then, true story, the day I turned 30, I was in the office, and I was so bored I could not figure out a way to goof off. Like I'd reached the end of the internet. There was nothing left to click on, and like, and I'm not into woo woo. I don't believe in ghosts or spirits or souls or any of that. But like, I swear, a voice said to me, like, dude, if you don't get up out of this chair right now and walk away, you're gonna turn 40 sitting here. Another decade of your life is
Yeah.
gone,
Yeah.
and you're gonna be even more bored. So there was this car website I loved. It was called The Truth About Cars, and at the time, it was just one dude, Robert Farrago, and I wrote him on my 30th birthday, and I said, hey, I want to write about cars. Now, I always, what I had in my back pocket was, I knew I was a good writer. It's one thing I just
Okay.
always knew.
Okay.
I've just always been very, when I was in elementary school, I won a poetry award. I was going to go to grad school for writing. That's a whole nother long story. So I knew I could write. I knew I loved cars, and I don't know. And he gave me a chance, and the
Yeah.
rest is kind of 20 years later, still doing it.
I want to
you know?
ask you how, because this is
Yeah.
the thing. I love bodybuilding,
Yeah.
but my second love outside of bodybuilding is cars, motorcycles, kind of anything with an engine. And when I was growing up, I wanted to be a race car driver, but we grew up poor. My dad's like, I can't afford a race car, so you're not you're gonna go play soccer like all the other kids. So that was
Right.
my thing. So I always thought to myself, how can I do what you guys do? And all
Right.
you did was just reach out to somebody. But I mean, obviously you had a writing skill that helped.
Yeah. Let me
But why did
let me.
but my question is, why did he give you, like, how did he give you the chance? Why?
I don't know. I have no idea. I honestly, I to be fair, I had written there was a magazine. I think it was a magazine called, or a comic book called. I never even read it, but it was called Too Much Coffee Man. It was out of
Okay.
Portland. There was a comic book called Too Much Coffee Man, and I think they made a print magazine. My friend Tony was the editor, and I used to write like movie reviews and music reviews and all that kind of stuff. And he
Sure.
said, "Hey, you're always talking about cars. Could you write like something car related for Too Much Coffee Man?" So it was it was when the Fast and Furious movie came out. I
Okay.
wrote a review of that, and that got published in Too Much Coffee Man.
Was it a good
And
review? Was it a good review?
yeah, well, I was on, I don't know what I was on. I was trying to make the case that the movie should be taken seriously because, like, and I was trying to make the case that, and I've long felt this way, that like in LA specifically, all this cool car culture is too fractured, right? Like the white dudes are
Yeah.
into hot rods, and the Mexican dudes are into lowriders, and the Asian
Okay.
dudes are into Fast and
Right.
Furious stuff, and
Right.
that it's all one thing. It all started as one thing. It all got separated and got kind of siloed by having all these different magazines.
Right.
And then it should all. And I was trying to explain that, like, if you're a hot rod dude, but this is also based on, like, I would go to car hangouts, and like it would annoy me that like a Volkswagen would show up with a bunch of hot rods, and these guys would like start hating on it because it was an
Yeah.
import. And
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, that car was made in 53. You were born in 73. What? It's been American 20 years longer than you have. Like, what are you talking
Right.
about?
Right.
Um, and so I was trying to make the case that like these cars were just as legitimate uh, as your 32 Ford hot rod. This Supra was just that's
Yeah.
what my review was about.
Okay.
Whatever,
That's fair.
deaf ears, but that was my point. Um,
Sure.
and so I think I showed that to Robert, and I showed him some other writing samples. And what he said was, he said, "Look, go find a car, review it, and I'll let you know." So my buddy had, I don't know if you remember the Saab 92X. It was the Subaru. So it was
No, I don't.
so
I
it
don't
was
have
it
any
was
good visions of Subarus in my mind though.
yeah. So it was a Subaru WRX that
Okay. I know who that
they
is.
put a Saab body on,
Okay.
and everyone called it the Subaru, but it was a Saab
Okay.
92X. I
Sure.
owned a WRX. It was a really easy review to write, but
Sure.
I grabbed it. I drove up a mountain. Yeah, there it is. The red one. Yeah, as my buddy had one. He let me borrow it, and I wrote a review. And this guy Robert said, "Hey, he made a lot of changes. And my giant ego, I wasn't ready to, like, how dare he correct me? But I put it away for like a week, and I pulled it out. And was like, you know what, he's right. And
Yeah.
he said, good. He's like, I'm gonna send you some press cars. I'm sent your way. Now, was I making, like, I think $5 a review or $25 a review? So it was
Yeah.
ridiculous, like unlivable.
Right. Right.
Yes, I got real lucky. This is this is a true story. Um, Most people, if they're into cars, they've probably heard of the website Jalopnik.
Mm-hmm.
And so back in 2005, there was a guy working there named Davey G. Johnson. Davey had gone on a date with my friend Deirdre um,
Mm-hmm.
back in like 2002. And there's a strip club here in LA called Jumbo's Clown Room, and it's kind of like a co-ed strip club.
Okay.
It's not a lap dance place. It's just like, it's like pretty girls doing pole dancing wearing bikinis. It's not, but
Yeah.
it, as crazy as it sounds, it is a place you would go on a date. So Deirdre calls me and she goes, "Listen, I met this dude on Friendster. I don't even know if you remember Friendster, but that was like before MySpace. It was the
No,
first,
I don't.
yeah, it was the
Okay.
first like Facebook type thing. I met this guy on Friendster. He wants to go
Yeah.
to Jumbo's. He seems cool. I don't know if he's a serial killer. Just come along and hang out, and he's gonna bring a friend for you, whatever." Anyways, Davey and I stood outside and smoked cigarettes and talked about cars for 4 hours. The date went
Okay.
terrible. But we just both had this like crazy passion for cars. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was one of those things that he lived in San Francisco. I lived in LA. I forgot all about him. And the third thing I wrote for The Truth About Cars, he reposted it on Jalopnik and said, "Hey, here's this guy Johnny. I met him at this strip club in LA called Jumbo's Clown Room. Blah blah
Yeah.
blah blah blah." Anyways, a week later, because it was like crazy times back then, I was working for Jalopnik. I think I was like the third or fourth employee hired, and
Right.
that was a really influential website. That was, we always described it as like the velvet underground of car websites. Like, you
Sure.
know, nobody read it, but everybody who did became a professional car writer, because it was just, we just had this, it was just this magic moment in time that totally went away, can't be recreated. But it was like, it was just a cool thing that happened, you know, and I happened to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
that brought me to a bunch of other places. And then in 2010, Angus McKenzie, who was the editor of Motor Trend, he just said like, "Hey, you want to work for me?" I mean, it's more complex than that, but essentially that's what happened. And I said yes.
Yeah.
And I was the first
Yeah.
blogger to go to print.
Sure.
And it was a big deal, and a lot of people hated my guts because I was a blogger, you know.
Oh no. So you
But
didn't have the credibility to start, obviously.
a lot of people
They
on
didn't
staff
give
at
you the
Motor Trend,
credibility.
a lot of people
Yeah.
on staff at Motor Trend did not want me hired at the time. I will say
Right.
there's a guy named Frank Marcus who's still at Motor Trend, good friend of mine. And I remember there was it was like our first big editorial meeting I was a part of. I just got hired, you know, no one knew who I was really, and who's this guy? And so they're pitching stories, and they're like, okay, here's one: Corvette ZR1 against 911 Turbo on Big Willow, which is a racetrack out here in California. And I
Yeah.
said, who wants it? And I put my hand up, me, you know. And you know, they were kind of like, for your first big story, like that's kind of a lot. And I said, hey, listen, like you hired me as a senior editor, like you'll know real quick if I can handle it or not. And they go, okay,
Right.
fine.
Right.
And I wrote the story, and I remember Frank came up to my desk and he said, hey, I got to tell you, like, you did a really good job. I didn't think you could do it, and that was really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that felt good. That felt, and I still remember that. I'm sure Frank does not remember that, but
Sure.
I still remember that. And that was
How did it
yeah.
feel? How did it feel to go from blogger to Motor Trend? Because everybody knows, Motor
Yeah.
Trend, Car and
Yeah.
Driver. I don't know if Car and Driver's on the same level, but obviously Motor Trend's the big leagues. So
Motor
how did
Trend, Car
that?
Driver, Road and Track, big
Yeah.
American books. Yeah, Automobile
Right.
used to be there. We should, you know, it, to me, honestly, it just felt no different. Let me put this way: having the money, meaning like at the time, Motor Trend's solution was just throw more money at it. You know, if
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
problem, spend more; it'll go away. So, like, I've always wanted to do. You know, I worked at Autoblog, and the whole 2 years I was there, I always wanted to do comparison tests. I love comparison tests. To me, that's
Yeah.
the ultimate form of car writing.
Yep.
Is you get two cars, same day, same road, same drivers, then you talk about it, because
Yeah. Yeah.
things change and your memory does funny things, and you know what I mean.
Yep.
Um, and so 2 years at Autoblog begging for a comparison, we did one comparison test, and
Mm.
even then, we couldn't spend any money on it, and it was just it became a whole thing. And they were like, well, you need like it was a 3-car comparison. They're like, you need 3 drivers. That's a waste, because those other 2 drivers could be doing something else, you know,
Yeah.
rather than one story. Why put 3 people on one story? You could have 3 people do 3 stories. It was a whole
Sure.
thing. And Motor Trend was like, finally, it was like me. And not only do we have this guy, Carlos Lago, who's now a car driver, not only do we have me and Carlos driving the cars and doing the photo shoot and all that, we rented a racetrack. We brought
Yeah.
in Justin Bell, who was a pro driver. He won Le Mans,
Yeah.
2-time GT2 champ. So we had him driving on the racetrack, give his pro driver opinion. We had our amateur opinion. And
Sure.
it just felt like what I should have been doing the whole time, if that makes
How
any
does
sense.
how does that feel as a car enthusiast? It would be a dream for somebody to say, "Here's a Corvette, here's a Porsche. Go take them on the track, do whatever you want, and then come back and tell me about it."
I got a better one for you. So at the time, the ZR1 made 638 horsepower, which was
Yeah.
absolutely absurd. Like the
I know.
Z06 made 505. So what I said, what I always loved was reading car mags growing up was I loved the old 0 to 100 to 0 test. That
Yes.
was the coolest test there was
Yeah.
in my mind. You know, nowadays I don't even think about it, but at the time I was like, this is what it means to be a print mag is you get to do that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I said,
Yeah.
but these cars make so much power. Let's do 0 to 150 to 0. Well, to get to 150, you need more than a quarter mile. So what we
Yeah.
did was same story. This is how much money Motor Trend would throw at stores back then. We went out to the Mojave Spaceport, which is out
Okay.
in Mojave, where you know it's like an airplane graveyard, but it's still an active runway.
Right.
And so we were gonna run the test on the runway, do 0 to 150 to 0, and see who was faster. Now,
Right.
the funny part was the Porsche broke. We were doing it,
Yeah.
and both the turbos fouled. They had oil starvation somehow.
Yeah.
So I don't even remember what the numbers were, but you know, it was it felt great. But again, in my mind, I had been held back from doing this for 5 years now because no one would
Yeah.
give me any money to do it. So it felt
How was the Corvette in that test?
it
Couldn't put the
won. It was
couldn't put the
great.
power
Yeah.
down?
Oh yeah, yeah, it was very good. It was. I will say at the time that was the rear tire, all the tires, but the rear tires, which got the power, were Cup ones, Michelin Cup
Yeah.
ones,
Yeah.
which you know, Southern California desert, both the racetrack and the drag strip or the the runway were in the desert.
Yeah.
They're great in dry weather. Cup ones and a little bit of water. Woo! um, as I learned a year later or so, we were taking the same ZR1 and a
Sure.
Viper
Oh, no.
uh, on just driving back from Monterey on the 101, and it was pouring rain, and I could not go over 50 miles an hour
Yeah.
in the Corvette.
Yeah.
Could not, just
Is the
couldn't do it.
Viper I would imagine the Viper would be worse though, no?
You would think that it had different tires and it was fine. It could go
Oh, okay.
75
Okay.
on the freeway in the rain.
Okay.
The Corvette could not go over 50. And I'm like, I'm literally in the slow lane, hazards on, getting passed by semi trucks
Yeah.
in the 638 horsepower Corvette because the
Sure.
tire tech wasn't there. Now it's much better.
I wanna ask you, so
Yeah,
you're talking about that era and Motor Trend is like, let's throw money at this and whatever.
yeah.
Is that around the time Top Gear is starting to make a name?
Well, Top Gear had already been making a name, but Motor Trend, how do I put this?
So sorry for just before you
Yeah,
answer. For people watching that might not know what Top Gear was, could you explain kind of what their thing was?
yeah, it was the biggest automotive anything in the world. It was three dudes. It was Jeremy Clarkson, James May, Richard Hammond. It was a car review show. It actually had been around as a BBC program forever, but then Jeremy
Yeah.
Clarkson, Richard Hammond, and Andy, I can't remember his name, the producer, Andy Wallace or whatever it is, Andy. Um, they just decided to have fun with it rather than being a dry, boring,
Mhm.
factual show. They would crack jokes.
Right.
And Clarkson had no qualms about offending everybody. And he could do it kind of in that winking British way. I mean, actually, in England, he's very much like hated as a right wing maniac. Over here, it's in America these
Where
days.
everybody loves them.
Yeah, he's pretty mild and like down the
Yeah.
middle over here.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, that show was so big. They had something like 350 million weekly viewers around the globe.
But I feel like it was like a cult following at the start. And
In
then
the
it
US
started
and
to get like,
Canada,
yeah.
for sure. It was, but it definitely grew and exploded. But
But it exploded like really quickly in like a year or two.
yeah, it was kind of when when YouTube got big, suddenly you could
Right.
see this thing because they would sort of do like in the US on BBC America, and I have no idea what they did in Canada, but BBC America, they would like cut the shows down. They cut out all the really controversial bits anyways, so you couldn't,
Yeah.
like Clarkson was famously, he got, when the Mini came out, the original
Yeah.
relaunched Mini that BMW owned, he was
Right.
making fun of the fact that it's not really British, it's actually German, and he's like,
Yeah.
it's got a nav system that's always wants you to go to Poland, and or like, we want you to invade Poland, so
That's
he was doing
hilarious.
that, and so that started showing up on YouTube.
Right.
So 2010, I think the show was already a smash hit. 2005, when I started, we kind of YouTube was still this weird thing that had like 90-second videos because the
Yeah.
internet was too slow. But
Right.
that's when it started leaking. But that show was so big that BBC used it as like a bargaining chip. It would be like, oh, I'm making this up, but like Bangladesh, you would like some BBC programming. Because
Mm.
you want Top Gear. Well, you also have to take like
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
incredibly boring program about
Yeah.
carriages or house plants or cooking or
Yeah.
whatever. And
Sure.
that's how the BBC was able to really grow its business around the world. Was everybody wanted Top Gear. Nobody wanted
Yeah.
anything else on the BBC
Yeah. Yeah.
globally.
Yeah.
Works in England, it does, but they wanted Top Gear, so there was a cudgel to get
Yeah.
into other markets.
So is
And
this a so is this a big when you're at Motor Trend? I know you just you started in 2010,
yeah,
but were they looking at Top Gear like a how do we compete with this?
they were not looking at. Okay, look, Top Gear is the 900-pound elephant in the room. Like, you can't
Right.
do car video without acknowledging Top Gear exists, right? So
Right.
we're very aware. That said, we had a video strategy in place from before I showed up. We were looking for cash. So
Mhm.
what happened in 2011 was YouTube decided they're going to, this sounds weird saying it, but they're going to compete with traditional TV and they're going to create channels. And so
Sure.
they spent, I think it was like $200 million, but they basically came up with like 100 channels, and each channel got $2 million. So they gave us $2 million. They gave Car and Driver $2 million. They gave Madonna $2 million for a Madonna channel.
Yeah.
Um, but what we had that nobody else in the car space had, I shouldn't say nobody else, but what Car and Driver didn't have was a plan. And so
Mhm.
Angus McKenzie, who hired me, really brilliant guy, really was my mentor in a lot of ways. He had these shows ready to go. He had the show Ignition, and Ignition was a 1-car review. He
Yep.
had Head to Head, and that was the
I
show
remember
I
them.
did. That was a 2-car review. He had
Yeah.
Epic Drives, and that was like you take a car and you do something crazy with it. He had the
Mhm.
J Turn. He also had the show Roadkill,
I remember
which
that.
was this guy Freiberger,
Yep.
and this guy Finnegan. And so he had everything ready to go. We had a video team in place. We just needed money. And
Sure.
the second the money showed up, we launched a network with 8 weekly car shows, and
Right.
we destroyed ourselves. I mean, Ignition I think came out every week, and
Yeah.
Head to Head was every 2 weeks, and we were killing ourselves producing that much content.
Right.
And we wrap. Luckily, we're located in LA, so there's tons of people that are like cameramen and soundmen and or women and producers, and
Yeah.
and we hired them and we worked them to death. We really did work the host to death. But we did it for a couple of years, and then we became very successful. Motor Trend
Yeah.
was the biggest thing on YouTube in terms of Top Gear was bigger on YouTube, of course,
Right.
but
Right.
that was like people illegally uploading clips.
Yeah.
But as far as original programming went, we were huge. And then I always say business classes will teach this defining moment in our history. We walked away from it because we thought streaming was a better thing for Motor Trend. And
Sure.
we walked away from a 6 million active subscriber YouTube channel. And
Yeah.
there's no going back once you
It
do that.
it's funny. I know you guys are, obviously Top Gear is reviewing cars and Motor Trend's reviewing cars, but it's a very different thing. Like Motor Trend is considered, I think, an authority on reviewing cars, whereas Top Gear was more just entertainment.
It's
That's the way
funny
at
you
least
say
I
that.
viewed it.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. So back in the day, and I've known about Top Gear forever, but back in the day, no, Top Gear was an authority on reviewing cars. Um, it was like I said, it was a long running British car thing, and they were very
Right.
dry and boring. Um, and it was even if you go back to the original stuff, like they were just kind of tongue in cheek. They started doing these grand, extravagant things where
Yeah.
they were just running around the world being lads or whatever they said. But they were like I remember. So you remember when Top Gear, when Clarkson got fired for punching a producer,
Yeah.
um, I know some people that knew the producer and said, yeah, he probably had it coming. But anyways, he got, you can't hit people. So he got fired for that. And the other guys went with him and they
Right.
recast it. And I remember the BBC called me to get, before the show even aired, to get my opinion of what was happening. And I said,
Sure.
look, Chris Harris is a super talent and
Yeah.
he's a legit car journalist.
Yeah.
This Chris Evans guy, he's rich and buys cars, but like he's not a car journalist. And the thing about Clarkson and May and Hammond to a little bit lesser extent, because he was like a
Yeah.
broadcaster, but he really didn't know cars well. These guys were car journalists. And so when they say blah, 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 Fiat Punto, they
Right.
got 20 years experience each, not only thinking about the Fiat Punto, but every other car that competes in that segment, the brand. When you got people coming in from the radio that bought a Ferrari, they don't know anything.
Right.
They can be told what to say, but it's just not gonna read as authentic, and
Yeah.
people are gonna see right through it. And I think I was mostly right.
Yeah.
Chris Harris was still the only one left at
Yeah.
the end when the show got
Yeah.
shut down because they had a really horrible crash. So the
I remember
show's
that.
gone.
Yeah.
The Top Gear publication still exists. It's a magazine. It's still a YouTube channel.
Sure.
My old partner Jethro makes videos for them now, so it's still a thing. But that was the magic of those three guys. Was they were hysterical. They were brilliant. They were real ugly. I think it also helps.
Yeah. That helps. They're like
Hammond
the
wasn't.
everyman. They were like the everyman kind of show. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean Clarkson is 6'6". He's got a gigantic pot belly. His teeth are rotting out.
Yeah.
Like he's just grotesque.
Dude,
And
what do you feel? How do you feel about like? Did you write a lot? Did you write a lot for magazines? Because you said you did Autoblog and then you did Motor Trend 2010. There probably wasn't a lot of magazine. They were still doing magazines then, but like it was kind of like crossing over at that point. So like when I started bodybuilding, I got magazine contracts in 2006 through 2010. But then the magazines kind of went away in bodybuilding and it all became online. So there's a thing where, people ask me like, do you miss being in the magazines? Do you miss having your own, section where you wrote about bodybuilding? Did you have that? Do you miss that?
Yeah. So when I started in 2010, Motor Trend was still about a monthly million subscribers.
Right.
Or a million monthly subscribers is the actual way to say that in English.
In the magazine, you mean?
The magazine. Yeah.
Yeah.
The magazine. So it was big still. It used to be that a million was a really bad month and that 2 million was sort of average. And that was sort of like 2006 era. And that was sort of peak magazine.
Right.
Now Motor Trend, we're still printing. I don't even know. Honestly, we went from monthly to quarterly. I have no idea what the stats are for quarterly, but I remember towards the end of monthly, it was down to like about still over 100,000, but I mean, it had fallen off 90% essentially in the time I had been there.
Right.
Is it still exciting for me to like go to an airport and grab a magazine and open it up? Hell yeah. And there's a really wonderful British magazine called the Road Rat. If you don't subscribe, if you like cars, subscribe to the Road Rat. It's exactly the magazine I've always wanted to be a part of. And and this is, we would have this conversation internally. It's like, boy, like, we get a lot of eyeballs if we do RAV4 versus CRV. It's like, yeah, but I don't want to write it. I don't want to read it. I don't care.
Yeah.
And Jethro Bovington, he would always say, let's just make the magazine we want to read. That's what Road Rat is. And it was Road Rat's one of those things where you don't ask them, they ask you. And I finally got asked. And I got my first article was published in Road Rat this quarter. And like when the magazine showed up in the mail, like, man, I was excited. And man, I was like reading it, and it was like, and it's a really special book because it's it's ad free, it's expensive, no advertising at all. It's over 200 pages an issue, all car stuff, and they even do cool stuff like there's a guy named Jeff Zwart, a wonderful guy. If you even paid attention to cars in the 80s through 2010s, he was the photographer of note. He was a director. He directed most car commercials. Huge Porsche guy. He was my coach when I raced Pikes Peak. Great driver. But they'll do stuff like they'll hire Zwart, and so like you'll finish one article on Road Rat, you'll go to the next article, but in
Right.
between there's a picture of like the curbing at Monaco. And it's just
Okay.
Zwart took an iPhone photo at Monaco, and then finish the next article and it's the curbing at Le Mans, and it's a Zwart photo. And so and they just did that in in one issue, just for an example. But each article is separated by a different curb, and it's
Okay.
like it's so very expensive, and it's on really nice paper. It's really expensive to do that and to take like a dozen
Yeah.
photos of curbing. But like if you're
Yeah.
a car junkie, it's like you're licking the magazine. It's the greatest thing. Yeah. Okay. So
Does it mean a
you're
little more?
this
Does it
is
mean
the
a little
article
more?
I'm in. Yeah.
Sorry, does it mean a little more when you see your writing in print?
No, but yes.
No, but yeah.
Like
All right.
logically, absolutely not. I'm platform agnostic. I don't care how
Right.
you hear my voice, read my words. With my heart, I grew up reading car magazines. Like
Sure.
that was I was so out of it, and my parents were so out of it. Like I didn't know you could subscribe. I just knew there was a Crown Books I could ride my bicycle to, and
Right.
I didn't know magazines were monthly.
Yeah.
No one ever told me. I just knew that every once in a while there'd be new issues
Yeah.
of. By the way, I always thought Motor Trend was terrible back in the day, but Car and Driver, Automobile, and Road and Track, and I'd go and I'd buy these three magazines, and it was like back in the day it was probably like $3 for all three, and I would go home and for 2 days I would read every single word,
Yeah.
and it was you had black and white photographs, color covers. But back in the 80s, the photos were black and white, and that it's just it's hard for these kids these days. But there was no social media. If I
Yeah.
wanted to see a Lamborghini living where I lived, there was one. I grew up in Thousand Oaks, which is like a suburb of LA. There was a green Yalpa, which is this obscure V8, Lamborghini up in the rich part of town. I'd have to ride my bike up a hill. That green Yalpa was there every day. It never occurred to me why it was there every day, but it never moved because it was broken. But anyways, it was a green Yalpa, and I could once a week I could like ride my bike to go look at it. That was it. You didn't see
Yeah.
Lamborghinis, you know.
Right. Right.
Um, once a year, each of the car mags would do a Lamborghini Countach story, but you had to
Sure.
wait a year, and then it would be on the cover. It was a cool cover, but then you're looking at black and white photos of maybe it was red, I don't know, and the photos were this big. It was,
Right.
there's no TV. There was,
Right.
I'd watch Cannonball Run, but there was
Yeah.
no car show, you know.
Can I,
Yeah.
Johnny? Can I ask you, like, you've been writing for like a generation of car lovers. Like, I'm not much younger than you, but I feel like I've been watching you on YouTube or TV or reading something you've written forever. Does that feel like do you have any introspection about influencing a whole generation of people?
Man, I wish I was smarter. No, I know, but it's the one thing I know. The reason I was laughing when you were saying that is was like, I'm officially the old guy. So
Yeah. Yeah.
we had
Well,
this
me too.
dude on staff. Everyone loved him. Kim Reynolds, and he was probably 20 years older than I was. And I would always hit him with this joke, some old dude joke. I'd say like, Kim, like, do you remember, that Lincoln thing? You were there when they shot him.
Yeah.
And, he'd laugh. Well, last year I was 49, and I was at Pebble Beach, and there's this wonderful thing called the Tour de Elegance. So the Sunday is the Concours d'Elegance, which I still claim is the greatest day in cars. If you like cars at all, you go to Pebble Beach on Sunday. It's the best. But the tour is to be eligible to win Best of Show at Pebble Beach. You got to go on the Tour de Elegance, and you drive from Monterey south across Bixby Bridge, almost into Big Sur, right? And so the cars have to move. So I was watching the tour leave, and I'm standing with two 20-year-old journalists, and there's some car I'm excited about going by. I'm excited about every car, but
Yeah.
I just know what they are. And I'm like, oh, look, it's a Talbot Lago T150C. and like whatever it was. And one kid goes, "How the hell do you know what that is?" And the other one goes, "Because he was on the launch." And I'm like, oh my God, I'm the old guy.
Yeah.
But I'm 49. I'm only 49.
Yeah.
But now that I'm
Yeah.
50, and by the way, 50 is for me was a really big number. I kind of wake up every single day and I'm like, oh my God, I'm 50.
Yeah.
It's a big number. That's my introspection is I'm just old and I've been doing this a long time. And what I worry about is I always want to sound fresh and original.
Sure.
And without naming names, I read, and I actually don't read that many other car reviewers, and I'll tell you why in a second. It has to do with Clarkson. It's a good story.
Okay.
But I will read, and I'll say, "Oh my God, he's using that line again." Like I remember when he said,
Yeah.
"It accelerates like a Saturn V rocket." I remember when he said that 20 years ago. Like I want to keep it fresh. I want to stay relevant.
Yeah.
But I had this thing happen. True story. Back I was doing head to head, and this would have been like 16, 17, but it was 17, 18. It was the Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio had just come out.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're filming the video in November. And well, the way our cadence was is it took 2 months for the video to get out. Why did it take so long? Logistics and editing and color correction. And we really ran it like a TV network. So it took a while.
Right.
Post-production.
Right.
Anyways, November, and I made the really bad joke, but again, we weren't scripted. I'm just driving around in the car with my idiot friend
Mm-hmm.
Jason Camisa, and we're trying to be funny on camera. And I said the Giulia Quadrifoglio, ha 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 ha. Okay. In December, an episode of the Grand Tour, so that was the show
Yeah.
that all the Top Gear guys went to after they got thrown off of Top Gear.
Yeah.
Clarkson says, blah blah blah, the Quadrifoglio. He made the same bad joke I did, right?
Right.
His came out in December, mine came out in January. So of course the internet's like, you're just copying Clarkson.
Right.
And what it was that moment I stopped consuming almost all car media because even though, and you know this, you can't ever convince the internet of anything, but at least in my mind, I know I'm clean.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I know I didn't get that joke from him because I know I recorded that in November.
Sure. So you just avoid. I find this with a lot of like successful media personalities that they kind of avoid reading about their own stuff or checking their own stuff or reading their own comment sections things like that.
No, again, I wish I was smarter. No, I read all the comments. I just try not to read. I try not to read what Chris Harris says about a car before I drive it. Before I drive it. Once I've driven it,
but that's important though. I could see why you would do that. You don't want to be influenced at all.
Yeah, and like we had a funny thing. So I'm on this other podcast called Spike's Car Radio, which is I don't know if you know it, but it's so Spike Ferriston was a writer on Seinfeld. He famously wrote the Soup Nazi episode.
Oh, that's
big
great.
Car geek. And Seinfeld comes on, and we got Leno on all the time. And it's me.
That's awesome.
Mostly it's me, Spike, and this guy Zuckerman, Paul Zuckerman.
Yeah.
And Spike had the M5 wagon, and I had driven it, and he hated it for whatever reason. He just totally hated it, and I really liked it for whatever reason.
Right.
And he was going on about, and then he got the RS6, and he was going on about how much better the RS6 was. I'd done a comparison for Motor Trend with the M5 versus the RS6, and again, same driver, same car, same road. M5 left the RS6 for dead. It wasn't even close.
Really?
And he's like, nope. Yeah. It was just M5 is unbelievably good to drive, and the RS6 is real good up till about 8/10, and then it's really, really nose heavy, and it plows and does a typical Audi, I would say gas powered Audi things. Audi EVs are really good. Anyhow, and we're having this huge fight, and he's like, "Well, Camisa agrees with me. Like Camisa says the M5 is horrible." And I was like, whatever, who cares what Jason says, but whatever. Anyways, I hadn't read what anyone had said about the M5. I log off, the episode goes live, and everyone starts messaging me. They're like, Chris Harris is with you. Chris Harris loves the M5. And I'm like, it would have been nice to know that.
There you go.
Yeah. And then, but it was funny real quick, just to keep name dropping. Jethro Bovingdon was like, he's like, mate, what are you, crazy? Like, how can you like the M5? It's horrible. And I was like, Chris Harris loves it, and they're really good friends. And he's
Yeah.
like, yeah, Chris gets it wrong all the time. So, I don't
So
know. Yeah.
that's actually kind of cool. I didn't even think of that fact that comes with your job is there's some celebrities like Jay Leno, like Jerry
Yeah.
Seinfeld, like these
Yeah.
really big names that are huge car guys.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
you've become friends with them, I'm sure, because they, they know you from obviously reading the magazines.
Yeah.
So
It's very funny you say that. So um, like on Spike's Car Radio, for whatever reason, I'm sort of between Paul and Zuckerman, or sorry, between Spike and Zuckerman, I'm sort of the punching bag. They're always making
right.
fun of me.
Okay.
I understand my role on the show. I get it.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
And by the way, in real life, like it ain't necessarily like that, but on the show,
Is
it's
this on YouTube? Can you pull it up, Matt?
yeah, Spike's Car Radio. You'll find one with me and Spike and Leno was one recently. If you find Leno, you'll see it. But Seinfeld's on all the time, and
Right.
you know, so so there was an episode, and again, I don't listen to anything, but I start getting all these messages from friends. Are like, oh,
Can you mute that, Matt? Sorry, Johnny.
yeah, no. I start getting all these messages from my friends like, dude, Seinfeld said all these really nice things about you this week on Spike's Car Radio. And I was like, really?
Right.
And so I listened, and what happened was Spike and Zuckerman started attacking me. And then Seinfeld goes like, actually, like I saw that video Johnny did on the 53 America Roadster. Like he really gets it. Like he really like understands that car. And so that was kind of cool. But
Yeah.
I know Jerry, but yeah, I mean, it's a trip. Like Leno calls me.
Yeah.
Like
That's what I'm saying. Like, is that like an
Yeah.
unintended consequence of being, knowing everything about cars? Is that cool that you and Jay are friends now?
It's still weird, but it's
Yeah.
it's weird when I tell other people. It just feels like name dropping,
Nah, because I get it. You guys are in the same circle when it comes to this topic for sure.
Yeah,
So
but we've also just kind of become friends. Like
yeah,
when we were at the Audrey Concours, which is if you're on the East Coast, it's in Newport, Rhode Island. Like so much fun, such a really wonderful kind of experience. I wasn't prepared to like it as much as I did. But Jay, before the Audrey was a thing, happened to buy a house out there because they have all these like insane mansions where, especially 10 years ago, they were, relatively inexpensive. He bought this ridiculous Gilded Age summer cottage, which is this insane mansion.
okay.
But he had me
Yeah,
over to his house like 3 times during the event, and like it's just weird. But and then
yeah,
oh my Rivian. So I got like a little like I don't even know what happened. My wife claims she doesn't know what happened, but there's somebody backed into the Rivian, so the
yeah,
tailgate has a tear in the metal.
sure.
So I was at Jay's, and I was in the shop I was just getting like a punch list done before it goes out of warranty. Just like, yeah, the cup holder's broken. And I said,
Hmm.
give me a quote on the tailgate. And they were like $5,800. And I was like, oh, come on. Like it's a tiny little tear.
Yeah, yeah.
And Jay's like, yeah, give my guy $300. He'll fix it. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah,
Yeah.
so like, yeah,
That's
it's
awesome.
like,
That's
yeah,
great.
it's great. Yeah. So it is very weird. And I've made a lot of like really what I consider to be good friends that, would be celebrities, but I met them because of cars,
Yeah, yeah,
like James Marsden. We've lost touch a little bit, but there was a while we were, kind of hanging, as weird
yeah.
as that sounds. Um,
That's
and
great.
again, he's weird to hang out with because he's so good looking. He's hard to look at. It's just like, it's very odd. Um, yeah, it's, like Joel McHale, great guy.
Yeah,
And we became friends because he, bought a 911 Turbo, and
sure.
I don't know, he knew me from Instagram, and he had some questions or something.
Yeah,
And yeah, it is straight. Now it's also a fact of life in LA, though. You just run into celebrities, you
right,
know what I mean?
right.
So, but
Jo-
yeah, it is weird.
Johnny, what do you think of the way things have progressed? So it went magazine, then it went kind of YouTube, and it's still YouTube, but I feel like everybody has a shot at being like the
Yeah.
guy, right? Like when
Yeah.
I say that, I'm talking about guys like Doug DeMoro or
Yeah.
um Rady's Rides, like some of these channels that have really like become really popular and people
Yep.
tune into them to, just learn about cars. They're not doing the things that, Motor Trend did or Top Gear
Yep.
did or those things, but they just go around and they show you kind of all the new cars and all the things they do. And they
Hmm.
get lots and lots of views. I feel like it's kind of where
Crazy.
car culture has kind of progressed to. And there's a whole bunch of these people now
Yeah.
doing this.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of where it is now. That's kind of where
Yeah.
car reviewing is. So
Yeah.
how do you feel about like anybody and everybody being allowed to kind of, there's no barrier to entry really.
Yeah. I feel fine about it. I read this crazy stat the other day that currently there are 2.85 billion uh, people that watch YouTube. So
Okay.
when I hear that number, it's like, come on, there's room for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and it's hard for me because like I came from nowhere.
Right.
The truth about cars had one person writing for it, and the guy happened to give me a chance. I happened to meet a dude at a strip club. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that I got real lucky. Now, did I put my head down and work my ass off for 5 years straight until Motor Trend and then do like, a decade of insane travel and work for Motor Trend? I did. I was
Right.
lucky
Right.
I was able to do that. But
Yeah.
I also got lucky, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I remember Doug before he was Doug, like he was
Hmm.
just a guy that wrote for Cox Automotive for I don't remember the name of the site, whatever it was. He surpassed them, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, he caught fire in a bottle. My thing was, I remember, Motor Trend and like my show Head to Head was bigger than that. Like we were
Yeah.
on Netflix. Like people
Yeah.
forget,
Yeah.
they took our show and put it on Netflix because since there was Top Gear was on Netflix for a little while,
Sure.
and Netflix they survive by like I still want to watch TV. I don't want to go to bed. Suggest another program that's like this. If you like this,
Right.
you'll like. So that's why they put Head to Head on Netflix. You know,
Sure.
um, so like if you would have talked to somebody who was 20 years my senior back when that happened, does Johnny deserve to be on Netflix? So if they
Yeah.
said no, like so I can't say
I guess
nobody's
I,
deserving.
I
You
guess I
know,
don't really, I guess I don't really mean it in that, do you feel like they shouldn't be allowed? I guess they mean it more like, do you think it's cool the way car culture has evolved to the point where like everybody has a shot, everybody gets a chance, everybody,
yes,
you know what I mean?
yes,
Like, is that a
yes,
interesting
yes.
thing for you the way it's kind of come about?
Huge for me, and I'm very much interested in like different voices.
Yeah.
Like it's very like and I'm a white dude from America, so when I opened up Motor Trend, or I didn't open up Motor Trend, but I opened up Car and Driver, I saw a bunch of white dudes, American guys reviewing cars. So I
Right.
was, maybe that helped me.
Yeah.
I'm very interested in like and again, not just because they're not white, but like you've had different voices and cultures that have been shut out just because
Yeah.
they're not not white or whatever. So I'm always very interested, like, you know, uh, there's a movie that's just came out. It's called "If I Had Legs, I Would Kick You," and my wife happens to be in it. So that's, but the
What?
woman who wrote and directed it, Mary Bronstein.
Yeah.
It's a movie about it's a horror movie about motherhood. It done in a
Okay.
very smart way, black comedy, horror, terror film.
Sure.
Rose Byrne, Conan O'Brien, Christian Slater, great movie, lots of Oscar buzz. But it's like I've watched so many movies, and I've never really seen like a woman write and direct a movie about like how bad it is, how horrifying it is to be a mother. And then I
Yeah.
watched this other really wonderful movie called Blink Twice. Zoe Kravitz wrote and directed it, and it's about sexual abuse and how women
Sure.
are sexually abused in a black comedy sort of strange way. But I watched
Sure.
these two movies like within a week of each other, and I'm like, it's really cool to have this perspective because I've seen the male perspective so many times. And
Yeah.
it's just I love different voices. So I think everybody should
Sure.
have a chance, of course.
Yeah.
And you look at like Lewis Hamilton in F1, and this is why I fell in love with the Road Rat was and again, I'll get off my political soapbox in a second, but he's without question. Now, look, there's a chance Verstappen will surpass him. There was a good chance of that. But Hamilton
Yeah.
was without question the greatest F1 driver of all time. There was a lot of people, though, that kind of discounted him. They wouldn't take him seriously. It wasn't him. It was the car that
Yeah.
was getting the wins. It was
Right.
Mercedes is so good.
Right.
And so the first issue of the Road Rat, they had a painting of Lewis Hamilton on the cover, and the letter from the editor said, like, yeah, we put Lewis on the cover because he's without question the greatest F1 driver. By the way, if you think he isn't because he's black, this isn't for you. And I was like, thank you. Like, I'm glad someone
Yeah.
actually said it.
Yeah.
And so anyways, back to what you were asking, like, am I 100% satisfied with everything? Like, no. Influencers, and by the way, I might be a freaking influencer, but
You
like,
are. You are now. That's the thing. We're all
I might
influencers now.
be,
Yeah.
but like, I will still give what I feel is my opinion about a car. If I think a car sucks, I will say it sucks. If the RS6 understeers, push beyond
Yeah.
8/10, I will say that. You can't make
Right.
me stop saying that. Maybe I
Right.
should. It'd be better for my career. People would like me more if I didn't
Yeah.
say that. But I feel if you have a true influencer where you're cutting out, so in cars, we have what we call PR people.
Sure.
So when I want a car from Audi, I call a guy named Mark. He's the head of PR. I say, Mark, I want this car. Here's what I want to do with it, and he says yes or no, and
Right.
he'll tell me a little bit about it. He'll send me the Monroney, which is the window sticker. He'll send me the press release, and he'll, but he doesn't really control what I say.
Right.
He tells me a story. PR is storytelling, and he
Mhm.
hopes that I repeat that story.
Sure.
Marketing is, here's your script, read it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
This is what you're going to say. So I don't like that.
I get it.
I think when you cut out, I hate the word journalist because, like, journalists get their heads cut off. Like, you
Right.
know what I mean? Like, their lives are in danger. If I
Yeah.
crash, I guess my life's in danger, but it's not the same thing. I'm a
Yeah.
car writer, but
Yeah.
no, if when you take that away, when you take my opinion away, I've just become a part of the marketing arm of a corporation.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
um, go ahead,
it's
please.
funny that you said that because one of the things I've always wondered whenever I've watched any of these car reviews or any magazine and any YouTube channel, are they being paid? Are they allowed to say XYZ? And even if, like, let's say it's not even nefarious, are you worried that if you say the RS6 sucks, maybe Audi's not going to send you the new model of RS6 to test?
Yeah.
Like, is that come into play when you're doing this
I'm
job?
so lucky that I eked out this weird position I'm in because I don't
Yeah.
have to worry about that. In
Okay.
fact, specifically for Audi, and again, and the spike clip that went viral, it wasn't me giving my side of the story. They edited it in such a way that I looked like a screaming maniac. They left it all like the really solid points I made. And
Right.
I was also so jet lagged. I just gotten back from, like, I don't even know where I was, somewhere in Europe, and I was just out of it. And Spike was like needling me, and I like blurted out like, that thing's a piece of shit. I wasn't worried about it. And in fact, with this trip that I just went on to drive the Concept C, Audi wanted me specifically. They said,
Right.
this is a guy that gets design. This is a guy that doesn't think EVs are soulless necessarily. They could be,
Yeah.
but
Right.
this is a guy that will give the car a fair shake.
Sure.
And again, the last thing I said professionally about Audis was the RS6 is a piece of shit. You know what I mean? Like, they knew that. They trust me. They called me and said, really?
Yeah.
And I said, I was jet lagged. Da 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 da.
Yeah.
I am in a position where I don't worry about it. Can I speak for
Sure.
everybody on YouTube? Are there people that are
Yeah.
paid?
Yeah. I just meant, I mean, you specifically, because like I said, I've always considered Motor Trend to be an authority
Yeah.
on car reviews. And so I always just wondered, like, the magazines themselves, I'm sure Ford has a budget to say, like, we're going to pay this much money to make sure the Mustang, is, you guys don't say anything bad about the suspension or whatever. You know what I mean? So I always wondered that.
It's not like that. It's just like they will, look, they buy ads in the magazine, they buy ads against the YouTube videos and all that. But we deal with PR, And again,
Right.
they say, hey, we think it's class leading. We think it does this better, and I'll say, great. And then I'll say, yeah, actually, the Ram TRX is better than the Raptor because I think it's better.
Yeah.
And it's, well, why is it better? Because I said it's better.
Because that's your opinion.
Well, it's true. I mean,
Yeah.
and everyone always says, "Oh, you're biased." Hell yeah, I'm biased. I'm in the opinion business. I drove the two cars. I think one's
Right.
better.
Right.
There's some numbers to back it up, but at the end of the day, if one car is a little quicker in a straight line, that doesn't really move the needle for me.
Right.
Which one? And I do this with the young guys on staff too. And I remember we did a Porsche. It was the Cayenne Turbo GT, so the real fast SUV, against an Aston Martin DBX 707.
Yeah.
And look, the last 5% of handling, the Porsche is better. Okay, but and so we did our big dynamic drive and we beat the snot out of these things, and this guy was like, I really think I like the Porsche better, and I said to him, well, why? And he was like, well, when you really, 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 really push it. And I said, okay, look, I'm like, it's Sunday and your girlfriend says, go buy me bagels. And both keys are sitting there.
Yeah.
Which one are you driving to get bagels? And he's like, oh, the Aston Martin, 100%. I was like,
yeah.
Think about what you just said, and that's, so the point I'm trying to make is we're in the opinion business.
Sure.
That literally.
It's interesting you brought that up. How do
Yeah.
you, when you're doing a head-to-head or you're reviewing a car or whatever, does everybody have their own set of, look, this is my criteria for why I think it's better? Or does the magazine say, look, these are the criteria we're going on. I want your opinion on those criteria.
Right. That's a great question. Okay. What happens with when I do it, a comparison test, usually there's another writer, another editor, and I'll say, okay, look, we're going to review the RS6 and the M5 wagon, M5 Touring. What I want to do is I want to drive them on the freeway. I want to drive them on some city streets. I want to kind of look at, they're both station wagons. Let's look at the actual station wagon part and is one noticeably more useful than the other? Does another with the Audi, does the crazy slope of the roof cut into the luggage space? Yes. And then I want to take them on a back road, and I want to really push them because it's the RS6 performance. It's a whatever 600 horsepower. BMW's over 700 horsepower. They got carbon ceramic brakes. They got all-wheel steering. They got crazy suspensions. Let's really push them.
Crazy.
And then we'll decide. So in other words, we're not just taking one part of that into account. Now, you could also, though, I remember I did a test years ago, still mad at the guy, but we had a Cayman and a Corvette, a Stingray. And I said, let's just talk about performance. Hang on a second. Are you there?
I'm here.
Okay. My thing froze and I got a message, but
what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Unscripted. We had a little bit of technical difficulties yesterday, so we went home, went to sleep, started over again today. And I'm in my home studio now. So you guys see a little different, but I wore the same hoodie just so it feels like it's the same podcast.
I changed my clothes, but I had to move. If anyone's watching, I had to move to the other side of the table because now the sun is setting and it was totally backlit.
Okay.
On the other side of my little outdoor studio.
Listen, Johnny, I appreciate you making time again for us. We were on a roll yesterday. I felt like we were doing so good, and then it's kind of like, whatever happens, and then we have to restart. So here we are.
We're not quitters.
I don't remember where we left off, but I do have a whole bunch of other questions for you. So
go. Let's do them.
Just going to start fresh. Okay. When you guys do the head-to-heads or any kind of comparisons like that, is that like Johnny Lieberman says, I want to do this car, I want to do these comparisons, or does somebody tell you you have to check these cars out?
It depends on what era you're talking about. So back in the day, I was sort of an uncredited producer on head to head because it was my job to think of the shows basically, because our
Right.
actual producers had to like find locations, hire, make sure camera people had batteries, rent equipment, rent cops, whatever we had to do.
Right.
And so, me and my co-host, well, before I had a co-host, I would just think them up, and it was funny. We just didn't know what we didn't know type
Yeah.
thing. So like back in the day, I would be like, oh, that car's kind of interesting to me, not really thinking about what does YouTube want to watch. And
Right.
I remember, I still think it was a great episode. It's the lowest, worst head to head in terms of views of all time, but it was a Ford C Max, which was this little plug-in hybrid thing, and we did it against like a Prius V, and we just had fun with it. Like we dynoed them, we dragged them, we took them on canyon roads. It was totally what you're not supposed to do with cars like that. And it was just, nobody watched it, nobody cared, and it was really funny too, because like, Ford, was it Ford or Toyota?
Are you
I think
talking
maybe it
about?
was
Are you
Toyota.
talking about this?
Yeah, that thing. Yeah. And but like I can't even remember. I think it was in the Toyota that like Toyota specifically told us that that's like the European version.
Oh, okay.
We, yeah, but or maybe the Canadian version, I should say. But I think Toyota, they said the Prius V, which was the bigger Prius, it doesn't compete with the Ford C Max. And then we found all these pages in the car that was like, what do you do if somebody asks about the Ford C Max? And so like I was reading out like Toyota's like talking points about how they're totally different cars, they don't compete with each other.
Right.
So, yeah, then we quickly learned like, hey, unless you run over a Prius with a tank, nobody cares about a Prius on YouTube. Um, so yeah, I would, back when the show was rolling, it was me, and then it was me and Jason Camisa, and then it was me and Jethro. And then we did another show called Head to Head Drag Race, and that was me and Jeff Glucker. And that was mostly me and Jeff thinking of the things. Once in a while, at that point, they'd come to us and say, hey, we have, we've rented a Ferrari
Yeah.
SF90, or what can you do with that? So, something like that,
Mm-hmm.
But here's how non top down or non corporate like it was. I was telling you that story about the quadrifolio, the Alpha Giulia
Right.
quadrifolio.
Right.
So it was me and Camisa, and it was just one of those things where it was just this weird moment in time where no one said no to us about anything. And so we were doing the Cadillac, it was the ATS-V, that car, the Mercedes C63 AMG, and the BMW M3. I think it was before the M3 Comp, but maybe it was the M3 Comp. Anyways, so we got all four
Right.
together.
Right.
And, at this point, we were just sort of like coloring outside the lines of Motor Trend. And like Ed Lowe, who was the editor in chief at the time, was like, you didn't tell us you got all four of these together? Like, write an article about it. It's like, I don't really have time. We're filming videos. He's like, no, but we didn't have any photos. It's like, well, how long do you have the cars? We had to figure out a photo shoot. So, it really was us.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those things where, look, in a perfect world where we had more time and at that point, human resources, like, yeah, you'd have a better strategy, but it was definitely us. I would get a lot of things like, I did. Do you remember that thing, the AMG 6x6, the six
Yes.
wheel big
Yes.
G wagon?
Yeah.
And that was one where like Mercedes was like, "Hey, um, we'll fly you to Germany and you can drive a 6x6." And it's like, okay, cool, that'd be a good story. But my show at the time was head to head, so I'm like, can I compare it to a regular G wagon?
Yeah.
So that became
That's
the
right.
the
That's right.
episode. And then
I
like
think
when
I
I was
saw
up
that.
there, yeah, it was a good one. Yeah. That was fun. Yeah, we jumped the shit out of that thing. But then they were like, "Hey, while you're out here, we got a Unimog. You can go to the Unimog factory, you can go to the Unimog museum, you can go to the Unimog proving ground. You have an extra day." And so we had this other show, Ignition, and it was like, it was pretty last minute if memory serves, and I had to call. I think Carlos was doing Ignition. I was like, "Would you mind if I did an episode?" Sometimes there's feelings involved or whatever. Um, I was always for the greater good, like just do it. Um, but again, it was like they were, I got back to it. Are you going to write a Unimog story? I'm like, well, we didn't really have a photographer for that one, just a video person, because it was last second. But that was insane. Unimogs are like the absolute, just the greatest. It was wild. Like, I always tell the story. They had one at the museum. Um, and so the way Unimogs work is they'll have like eight-speed transmission, and then you just put the whole thing in reverse. So suddenly you have 8 reverse gears, right?
Sure.
So you have it's a 16 speed, and then you have low gears, right? So like a normal off-roader, and then on this particular Unimog, you had low gears. So it was
Okay.
a 32 speed transmission. So you actually had like low first reverse, and the guy was showing to me, and he puts it in low reverse, jumps out of the car. Actually, it was low forward, but he jumps out of the truck, and its top speed in low first is 80 meters an hour. So the truck, it's just barely moving, right?
Yeah.
And I go, what the hell do you use this for? And he's in Germany, very straightforward. He goes, well, what if you had to back up a train? And I go, yeah, that's a good point. If you had to back up a train, like
Yeah.
this is exactly this is torque,
When you get something like that, when you get like a Unimog, are you
Yeah.
allowed to just kind of do whatever you want? Or are they like, look, you can't do this, this, and this?
So I'll give you an example with the 6x6. I'll get back. The Unimog they took me to the Unimog proving ground, and they put a guy in the seat next to me, but he was like, go ahead, crash through the ice, because it was freezing, and like all the water obstacles had like the surface had frozen.
Yeah.
So we're just taking this monster truck and smashing through ice.
That's
And
awesome.
there's nothing they can't do. It's an unhurtable vehicle.
Right.
You can barely even roll them. Like, you'd have to really do something stupid to roll them over, because they can drive at like a 45-degree angle. I think they can actually drive at a 50. They're so, because the frame twist. Anyways, but so with the 6x6, the guy sadly passed away. He's a really nice guy. His name was Irving, or Irwin. I can't remember. He was the chief G-Wagon test driver.
Mm-hmm.
And so he said, let me show you some tricks. So he had the regular G-Wagon, and I remember he locks the center differential, puts it in low gear, and starts doing a donut. And there's a way, if you do that, to get the G-Wagon to like lift a wheel, which is
Right.
insane, because
Right.
G-Wagons should not be lifting wheels.
Yeah.
And he said, don't bother trying that. This is a trick I know as the chief instructor. Okay, great. Then he said, we can jump the 6x6. And I said, really? So yeah, so they have these jumps, and so we're catching massive air in this thing.
Yeah.
And they had put out a video when they debuted the 6x6. It was like jumping on dunes in Dubai, and
Right.
I actually have a lot of experiences, because I grew up in Southern California, of like jumping trucks off sand dunes. Don't ask; it's a thing we do.
Yeah.
Raptors and whatnot, and but I was like, because we were jumping off like paved concrete. They were like built-in jumps, and at the G-Wagon factory in Graz, Austria. So I said, you know what? I don't need to jump it. I'll sit in the passenger seat. You jump it, And so I could have, I didn't. And then they did this crazy thing. So there's a term called split mu, and mu is mu, and all it means is 2 different surfaces.
Okay.
So they had like a slick water surface, and it had a little drain, and next to it was a dry surface. And there was a way, if you were going at whatever miles per hour, if you hit the brakes and turn the wheel, you could do these huge 360s.
Right.
And so he showed me that, and that one I said, okay, I'll try, because they just don't tip.
Yeah.
And so I think I did a pretty lousy job of doing that, but I was allowed to do that. So it just depends.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. If you ever see almost any video, Top Gear gets the pass, but anyone else, you see a video with a Bugatti that is owned by Bugatti, there's a dude in the other seat.
Always.
I know them all. They're the bravest people in the world.
Yeah.
They have to ride shotgun with like, very unskilled journalists driving these things.
I want to touch on that real quick before we move on from for a minute.
Please.
You said unskilled journalists. So this is a very this is a very interesting thing to me, because so when I watch you guys, you or any of your co-hosts, you've named a bunch of them that I'm sure I would recognize, like with the face, or like a Jeremy Clarkson or any of these guys. I see you guys take these cars out on track, and you're drifting them, and you're doing lap times with them. You're doing crazy things, and I'm like, did you guys have to go to driving school, or have you just been doing this so long that you've picked up like tips and tricks from
Yeah.
pro drivers and things like that?
Yeah. I cannot drift. I'm horrible at it. The only vehicle I've ever successfully drifted was a Hellcat. For some reason, I can drift a Hellcat. I can't. There was a Toyota or Subaru BRZ, couldn't drift it at all. A Hellcat could drift it. But I'm terrible at drifting. Drifting requires like smooth, feathery kind of throttle inputs, and I'm an on-off switch. I have terrible foot control. And it's why I'm bad at racing. It's like I can push the accelerator as hard as anybody. I'm very terrible with the brake pedal.
Sure.
And so that's you need like feathery, soft, controlled inputs, and I just mash. It's not good.
But I've seen you take cars around the track.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm
Yeah.
okay. I'm not, Randy Popes, who I worked with for years, who was a pro race driver.
Right.
And again, what's a pro? Someone pays him to race. Like,
But
you know what I mean?
but hold on, but hold on. When you say you're okay,
I'm okay.
that's like, again, you're around pro drivers all the time, so you're okay is probably like the average guy is really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of experience,
Right.
But like Randy, somebody once asked him to describe my on track driving ability, and Randy looked at him and he, in his southern way, he said, "Well, he'll never crash, he'll never win, but he'll never crash." And because of that, and people know I drive like that, I do get to go on like a lot of like race teams where they just need 4 guys to drive, and you just want the thing with endurance racing is just keep doing laps.
Right.
Yes, you want to be the fastest, but again, we're amateurs, right? We're paying to do this. We're not being paid.
Right.
So crashing the car though, because usually we're not that wealthy, that's expensive.
Of course.
And you know what I mean? Like a race car costs a lot of money. So I knock on my wooden table here. I've never crashed a race car on a racetrack. And I've done some racing. But I did go to a lot of performance driving schools early on. I spent a lot of time learning car control. Not that I'm good at it, but I did, have good people instruct me. And then just like practice, like I realized at one point I've probably done over 1,000 laps at like Laguna Seca. I've definitely done over 1,000 laps at Streets of Willow. I've probably done 1,000 laps on Big Willow.
Yeah.
And so my baseline is like decent.
Yeah.
I raced Pikes Peak. I had really bad weather, but out of 6 cars in my class, I came in 4th on my first race. It was foggy. I would have got 3rd if it wasn't foggy. There was 2 people I was never going to catch. Lonnie Unser is related to the Unsers, and she was, there was no catching her. And then this guy Cam Ingram was just red mist. He was hauling that day. But yeah, I was a little mad at myself. But it was foggy. It's hard to race in the fog. But
are you? When you say you were a kid and you could pick out any car and what kind of engine it had and all that, was driving the cars also of interest, or was it just knowing about them?
I was very interested in driving. I was actually, honestly, I started out, I don't know what it was. I remember when I was in kindergarten, I remember this really well. I became obsessed with the idea of getting a go-kart. I just wanted a go-kart so bad. I didn't know about tracks. I didn't know what I would have done with it, but I remember just like being like obsessed with the idea of getting a go-kart and taking a lawnmower engine and making the go-kart go with a lawnmower engine. And like, it just, my family, it just never happened. I remember at one point my dad, I was, he didn't know where to get go-karts. He had no idea. He took me to Sears and he put me on like a riding lawnmower. And I had this like insane fantasy of like building a motorhome out of a riding lawnmower. And like, I was 7, mind you.
Yeah.
And I'm calling all my friends being like, we could run away. I'll build a motorhome. I didn't know how to build anything, but I really wanted a riding lawnmower.
Right.
So yeah, I always wanted to drive. Now, did I know anything about driving? Like, no, but I definitely, always wanted to drive for sure. 100%.
So do you feel fortunate? Like this is kind of like a backward, because your story is kind of like mine. Like my dad, go-karts, like get the fuck out of here. He wasn't like, he's like, it's like, so do you feel fortunate that, you kind of found like a backwards way into racing?
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. And again, and I do it because people ask me, like, I have raced. I'm not that good. B, I don't like it that much. Like it's,
but I don't mean racing. I just mean like, you got to, like you said, you did 1,000 laps on
Yeah.
Laguna Seca. Like, that's awesome.
Oh, it's the best. Yeah. Oh, I love driving Laguna Seca. But what I like doing is I like to be by myself, which is, again, I'm very spoiled. I get that. And I'm not worried about like other cars. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not very good. And I really don't like when there's other cars, I get real nervous. I don't want to hit them. And I don't look, I'm 50, I'm fat, I'm old, I'm married. I got a kid to worry about. If I ever had a killer instinct and I, the only time I was ever competitive in my life was when I played football. I really loved playing football, and for some reason I was very competitive. But I've just never been like physically competitive. And
Right.
I'm 50. I don't. My reflexes are gone. I don't. You know what I mean? I'm not. I got nothing to prove. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like
Right.
I've done it.
Right.
Um, and I'll never forget again. Back to Randy Popes. Like somebody said, and Randy's just funny with his little sayings, but somebody said, "Well, what do you think of like Patrick Dempsey?" And by the way, Patrick Dempsey is like the nicest human being on the planet. I'm not saying this because I want to say anything bad about Patrick Dempsey, but he's an amateur racer.
Right.
And Randy, he thinks about it for a second and goes, "Well, he pays to race. I get paid to race." And I was like, yes, that is the difference. And that's
Yeah.
with pro drivers, I know I understand racing lines and I understand braking points and I understand what you should do. I just can't do it, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And there are a lot of journalists, usually the younger guys that think they can, but you'll get like a 5 second differential between a good journalist and a pro, and
Yeah.
5 seconds in one lap
Yeah.
is like
An eternity. Yeah.
multiple classes of vehicles. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right. Right. Yeah.
And that's why we worked with Randy, because I remember, A, he was awesome, B, he's very talented, all that. But I remember a Chevy engineer, Corvette engineer saying like, with Randy, it's great because he's right at the edge of what the car is actually capable of.
Right.
When we get lap times from other publications where the journalists are driving, we got to like, you know, cut off 4 or 5 seconds to like figure out what the car would actually do on that track.
Yeah.
And it's a big gap. It's a big, like I raced with this dude, Matteo Siderman, Tato Siderman, and he's he's 20 years old. He's just got it. He just got in a car when he was 19. He was the fastest, and he's still the fastest. He just started racing Lamborghini Super Trofeo. I think his first season. I can't remember which race it was, like fourth or fifth. Podium, kids on the podium. Like,
Wow.
and I'll watch what he does. I have no idea, and he just smokes me. We went to Watkins Glen, and he was like, his best lap was, I don't know, like 7 seconds better than my best lap or something. Just
Oh my God.
he's got it. He's going to be a famous race car driver one day. Nicest guy in the world. Teaches my son like how to sit on a simulator.
Yeah.
Best behaved 20-year-old there is, but he's just a race car driver, and it's just not me.
What car manufacturer asked you to kind of look at their car and review it where you didn't want to? Was there anybody like that? Is there like a famous kind of car that everybody wanted to review and you just kind of got a bad taste in your mouth about it?
Not a famous one. There's that company Karma, and they're like they used to be, it was the first Fisker, and he made the Fisker Karma,
I
and
remember
then that folded, and then this new company Karma popped up, and they made this car called the Ravello or something,
Right.
and now it's on like the third iteration of that, and I'm actually getting one in a couple weeks, but I drove one like 5 years ago, and I was supposed to review it, and I was just like no, like A, you're never gonna actually sell this to the public because no one would buy it, and B, like I'm just gonna, it's just horrible. Like it's not. It's just, it wasn't like a real car. It was just really bad. And and to be fair, I was doing it for like a promotional video or something and I just said like let's not do it. You know what I'm saying? Like let's just it's just, there's no point. And then like my friend Hannah drove it and reviewed it, and her write up was like basically, this is the worst car I've ever driven. And and like she was right, but people thought she was being harsh, and I probably should have maybe said something, but that car, like as far as I know, never actually even went on sale, so it didn't matter. I've definitely driven like awful cars. You know, like
Is it
the Dodge Nitro might be the worst car ever built. And this is going back 20 years. You know, but most cars are pretty much okay. I wasn't involved in it. There's this Vietnamese car company called VinFast,
sure?
and they put out a little electric SUV or mid-size electric SUV, and they had the launch. And so a launch is, you know, they put all the cars in one place and they fly the journalists in and you drive them on a course they picked out. And that's how you get a bunch of stories to launch at the same time.
Right.
Believe it or not, it's actually cheaper than delivering cars all across North America. Just put
Yeah.
all the cars, fly the humans in, much cheaper
Yeah.
than moving cars. And so I wasn't there, but the cars were 6 months too early, and they were just, and they were all bad in different ways. You know, one of them, the suspension was awful. Another one, the software was awful. Another one, the body structure was screwed up. And so every single review that went up said, don't like a terrible car, and it's terrible for different reasons. No one even
Right.
agreed why it was bad.
Right.
Or I remember another funny one. Boy, this is going back because Kia right now is making very, very good vehicles.
Yeah.
And this would have been about 2008 or 9. It was a Kia Sportage launch, and it was up in Seattle. And like I remember that we had they were partnering with Microsoft, Ford Sync. It was Ford. I think they publicly announced that Microsoft was doing Sync, but Microsoft was selling their software to a lot of OEMs at the time, and
Sure.
they still are.
Yeah.
And so they had the dude from Microsoft there, and he was supposed to show us like how all this stuff worked. Nothing worked. Like nothing at all worked. The cars that I'm getting ahead of myself. So nothing worked, and he was like, "Well, it's supposed to work. You can imagine how it would work." And we're like, And then the cars were bad. They just
Yeah.
drove bad. The suspension was all messed up, and then I remember I actually was like, I want to switch cars. Like at lunch, I said, I think mine. There's something wrong with it. You know, let me. You know, got another car, and it was also just as bad in a slightly different way. Still the suspension. Anyhow, I used to smoke cigarettes. Don't smoke cigarettes. I'm outside having a cigarette. We've been drinking. Also, I should mention that the head of PR at the time was quitting. It was his last hurrah. So
Yeah.
he was just getting drunk. He wasn't talking to us. And there was another guy that smoked, and he was an engineer, and he had a couple drinks, and he was really extra drunk, right? So I'm talking to him. I'm like, "What's going on with this launch, man? It's really just a bizarre one." And he's like, "Bro, the cars came in from Korea last night, and they were set to the way Koreans like their cars.
Oh no.
Apparently, in Korea, people love their cars extra triple soft. They just want the softest springs possible. Which on
Yeah.
Seattle roads where it rains all day long, and you know, it's you know, America, we don't repave our highways as frequently as South Korea, where there's no distance. You know, they had to. He and his team had to do an overnight session where they had to change the suspension on every single car. And we're talking like 25 cars.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he was up all night, and I was like, "Holy shit!" Like, oh my god. So that was, you know, and I mentioned as much in my review. I'm like, "Look, these cars came in way too early. I
Right.
don't know how the actual Sportage you'll get at your dealer is. The ones I drove, nothing worked. The suspension was
Yeah.
bad. Pure guy's a dick, you know, whatever." So
It sounds like there's total transparency with reviews. Like it doesn't sound like you guys are hiding anything or being paid or like. I mean,
oh
I know there's probably some people, but I mean, like,
yeah, I've said this a million times. Like at this point in my career, I'll take the money. If anyone wants to give me the money, I'll take it. Like I'm good. I was 2 decades of like not taking the money. I'm here. Give me the money. That's that. No one's offering me any money.
yeah,
You know, we will have like once in a while you'll have something happen like trying to even think of a good example. I know of one. Guys I know, it wasn't me. Guys I know crashed a Ferrari real bad, like 600 feet off a cliff, bad,
no,
and they lived. And I remember it was like, don't say anything. I knew I happened to find out about it. It was like, don't say anything. We suspect there was brake failure, but Ferrari's doing an investigation type thing.
right,
And, you know, had it been on a launch, it wasn't on a launch, luckily, but had it been on a launch, somebody, you know, might have put something up on the internet and said, "Oh, this guy can't drive." Well, the investigation came back 4 months later, complete brake failure. Just
no way,
brakes. Yeah, he was approaching a corner fast, went to the pedal went to the floor. It was all on the black box. And it was something like 100% pedal and
Yeah.
0% caliper. So there was just
Oh
some
no.
failure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was real bad. Like, it was real bad. That was never written about. I think I maybe talked about it on a couple podcasts. We've definitely I'll give you a really funny one. We were doing, I don't even remember exactly, but it was like, it was like E63 and M5 and the Jag, the XFR. I think it was the XFR.
I had that. That was I owned that car. Okay, go
Great
on.
car.
Sorry.
Love
Yeah.
that car,
I hope you don't
right?
tell a horrible story about it, but go ahead.
I'm going to tell a really horrible story about it. So,
Oh no.
yeah. So we're out at Willow Springs. We're on Streets of Willow, and we're doing our thing, and the power steering on the Jag goes out, right?
Okay.
And there's power steering fluid everywhere. It's all over the track. So we got like kitty litter on it and everything. And so I knew that like the LA Auto Show was coming up in a couple days, right? So I knew they had a couple of these in town. Called the PR guy. I go, bro, like, do you have another one? Can you get it here like in an hour or so? Because the Willow Springs is only like an hour or so away from Los Angeles proper.
Right.
And he goes, yeah, we got another one. I'll bring it up. No problem. Sorry, I'm really sorry the power steering went out. Cool. Now, are we going to write that the power steering went out? Like, the plan was probably not. It's kind of funny, but also it's like, why? Like, what is it going to go out on your car? Like, who knows? They're press cars. All right. This one shows up. Not only does the power steering break, it catches on fire.
No,
the power steering fluid
no way.
sprays all over the hot manifold, catches on fire.
God.
I'm literally fire bottle putting the fire out. I call the guy, I'm like, bro, not only did it break, it caught on fire, And he's like, do you want the other one? I go, no,
fuck
like,
that.
no, we don't. At this point, we don't want it.
Yeah.
And I believe we just cut it out of the story.
Okay.
And what we're trying to do is we're trying to review the cars, and like, would it have helped the story to tell that in the written story, comparing the Mercedes and the BMW? And then by the way, there might have been an Audi in there too.
Sure.
Like, I don't know if the car worked, I think it would have been a good story. Comparing a car that broke on a track.
Yeah.
So it was. Did I make a mistake by not writing about it? And by the way, I might have wrote about it. I can't remember, but in my head, I didn't. Yeah. Like, I don't know. Am I protecting Jaguar? Well, the Jaguar's basically out of business. Like, there's nothing. Would they still be in business? like, would they have sold more? The kicker to that story, though, is he calls me. He's out of the business, but this poor PR guy calls me like a week or so later. He goes, "Hey, I just want you to know why that was happening." And he goes, it was it's a plug for the power steering return line, because back then they still had hydraulic power steering. Now everything's electric.
Sure.
But the return line had a metal plug, but on the prototype cars that you were driving, or not prototype, pre-production, it was a plastic plug, and we knew about it. But our engineer said it only happens on the Nürburgring, so not to worry about it. And I'm like, what, the power steering line has GPS and knows where it is? Like, what are you talking about? He goes, I don't know. That's what they told me to tell you.
That's what they said to say.
Yeah. And I go, well,
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. I said, well, I don't know.
They like, that sounds like such an awesome time though. Just those 4 cars, for example, like the E63, BMW M5 or something.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, what's your favorite? Let's just go sports sedan.
It's I talked about it a little bit yesterday. The RS e-tron GT, I think, is like, just I just feel like I'm in this like
the Audi.
The Audi, yeah. It's an EV, I know, but it's 912 horsepower, and it's so precise at what it does. Other than that, like the Lucid Sapphire, which by the way makes 1,234 horsepower, is so quick. I can't even like really describe it. Like, it's gnarly. I love the last gen M5 CS. I think that was a real great car. Problem is, if you just have combustion, you're stuck at 600 horsepower. Lucid's making 1,200, and it's just also and I wish had spent more time with it. I will, but the Cadillac, the CT5V Blackwing with a manual
Nice. I love that car.
is an awesome car. It's just I love shifting big
Yeah.
torque vehicles, and that
I
makes a lot
always
of
I always felt like I wished they made that in an all-wheel drive though.
ah
Because the
yeah
rest of the category had all-wheel drive.
yeah
And that was the only one stuck with the rear wheel. And I'm like, I live in Canada, and I'm like,
yeah.
I don't want to buy that car, get stuck in the snow. You know what I mean?
So yeah, I mean, it's just one of those like that motor was just never designed for all wheel drive. They just
Yeah.
GM doesn't have. I shouldn't say they don't, but they're 10-speed automatic, which can be made all wheel drive. I just don't think there's a high torque version that does all wheel drive,
Right.
but the trucks will be high torque. But they're slightly different in the truck and the sedan, and then the manual. You're just not going to have a manual that takes that torque.
Yeah. Yeah.
Manuals are dying. No one develops manuals. You sort
Yeah.
of go off the shelf. Like, what does Tremec have? Type thing. So I
Yeah.
think maybe I would say the decision to make it a manual, which is great, meant you're not going to get all-wheel
Yeah.
drive.
It's funny you said something about the combustion engine earlier, but you got the new Corvette ZR1 that
Yeah,
does over 1,000
just drove it.
horsepower.
Yeah.
And what'd you think? I'm so curious because I
Oh,
love that car. I love
oh,
that car.
oh, it's a good one. Oh, it's I had so much fun in that car. It's
Is it
just, yeah,
amazing or what?
it's amazing. It has unlimited top end. It surprisingly puts the power down very well. Like I
Yeah.
was expecting like an old Shelby GT500 where the back end is just all
Yeah.
over the street. Because forget about the 1,000 horsepower. It's 828 pound-feet of torque, just the rear wheels, which is
Yeah.
that's good. Puts it down, really puts it down. Uh, Again, the Michelin Cup 2s, like, I salute them. That's a lot
Have
of
you have you driven the
power.
Z06?
Yes, extensively. Yeah,
What
yeah,
do you
yeah.
think of, can you compare the two for me? Like, what do you think of
Yeah.
them?
I think that on a racetrack, you'd be happier in the Z06, and on a twisty back road, you'd be way happier in the ZR1.
Why do you say
Just
that?
because the power is just such, you just giggle like a little kid. I mean, the power is just so overwhelming.
Yeah.
I think on a racetrack where, again, on racetracks, unless you're on the Nürburgring, even on big straights, you're not going that fast. And
Right.
remember, like, the different, what's the difference between 670 horsepower and 1,064 horsepower in a straight line? It's really the top end. You
Yeah.
might shave a little bit in terms of, like, 0 to 60 or quarter mile, but it's
Right.
really, once you get to 150, the headroom you have on the ZR1 is just, you go. I think the top speed is 233, which is
Yeah.
totally insane.
Insane.
Like,
Insane.
I've gone faster than that, but, like, I do not recommend it. Like,
I
if you're
remember I remember growing up and like the Ferrari F40, I think was around
201,
yeah, it was
201.
like it was the first one to break 200 or something like that.
Yeah, so it was the 959 was supposed to, and it
Yeah.
went, and Porsche, actually, to be fair, you got to help me with kilometers here, but it was supposed to go,
Oh, I
uh,
don't
two,
know the conversion.
okay, so 200 miles an hour is like 300 kilometers an hour, something like
That
that,
sounds
right?
about right. Yeah, that sounds about
Okay.
right. Yeah.
But it's actually like, you know what? I can
I can check it right now.
Okay, yeah. Well, it doesn't matter. So what Porsche said was it could do the metric one. The metric one was supposedly 197 miles an hour. It wasn't quite there. You know what I mean? Like, for instance, like with the Veyron, it was built to go 400 kilometers per hour. That
321.
happens. Okay, yeah, 321. So at the time, the Germans were excited about 320. They
Yeah.
wanted they wanted
Why
320.
320? Just because
I
that
don't
was
know,
200, because it was
because
200 miles maybe.
it was close enough. They don't know miles per hour. Somebody went 315, and so they made this supercar, the 959, and it went 100. They said 197. Everyone who tested it got to 198, which is like,
All right.
it's so close. And then the F40 went, I think it was 201,
Yeah.
and I think also that was like Ferrari claimed it. Everyone could get to like 199. They could
Yeah.
actually never get to 201. And then Porsche, of course, released the 959S, which then Automotor Unsport tested up to 211 or something like
Oh
that. So
fuck.
the
Okay.
959 was always like
Yeah.
way
Yeah.
superior.
Yeah.
It just didn't look like the F40, which looked really good.
What do you think the most superior car brand is? I know you love EVs and you mentioned some of your favorite cars,
Yeah.
but like as far as brand, is Porsche, like everyone always says Porsche
Yeah.
is like the benchmark.
To me, oh boy, to me, okay, I'm gonna give you three.
Okay.
And I say this as a Lamborghini guy. I don't really have any brand loyalty. To me, I don't care. They're all equally. I just like the products. Okay, Bugatti. And again, I'm very lucky. I've lost count of the number of new Bugattis I've driven. I lead this ridiculous life.
Yeah.
But like I just
You
drove the
definitely do.
Mistral. Yeah, I just drove the Mistral, which is so good. I can't even like explain it, but it's also like $5 or $6 million.
Can I
But
interrupt
it's
you?
like,
Can I interrupt you for 1 second?
yeah.
I just want to know if you've driven this car because it's literally my favorite car on earth.
Okay.
I'll just see if I can bring it up here. This thing. Have you driven this? It's
Oh,
the
is that
Bugatti
the
La Voiture Noire.
La Voiture Noire? So no, but there's only one of those, and that was
There's only one of these?
there's only one. It was built for Chairman Piech when he was still alive. I forget who owns it now. It was also $18 million, but that is essentially a Mistral with the top on.
How do you spell Mistral? How do you spell Mistral?
Mistral. Bugatti Mistral.
Mistral.
Yeah.
Oh.
La Voiture Noire is beautiful.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It is pretty similar, eh?
It is. It has no roof. It has no roof.
You got to drive this?
Yeah.
Like unlimited?
What's that?
Like unrestricted?
Well, I mean, it can go 282 miles an hour with the roof off.
Right.
I believe when I drove it, they had the limiter on, so it could only go like 265.
Yeah.
I wasn't going for top speed in this car. I was on the shuttle runway in Florida, and I did take a Chiron Super Sport. I only got to 245.3 miles per hour. Got a little windy. Things got dicey. 245 is fast enough for me, I've decided. But the Mistral is such a wonderful machine. I don't know how they did it. They're only making 80 of them. It is, and a friend of mine has one, and I saw it, and I was like, Nick. But so just like it's one of those things, like you drive it and you're like, yeah, 5 million seems like what you would pay for something of this quality. You know what I mean? Like if you're not driving, you're like, what? Are you crazy? You can get like, many great houses for that. But after driving, you're like, yeah. No, this makes sense.
It's worth it. Yeah. Do you have friends? Do you have friends that buy cool cars and they're like, they want you to drive it because if you're like, they're like, drive my car, tell me if it's cool.
Yeah. 100. No, not tell me if it's cool. They know it's cool. If they're buying it, they know it's cool.
So tell me if it's good.
No, they don't even want my opinion. They're just like, go drive my car,
Why?
But I think when you're buying cars like that, your mind's pretty much made up.
Yeah. But then why do they want you to drive it? Just because?
Just they know I like cars, and
okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've never asked them why. I just say yes, I'll be there. So Bugatti. The other one is RUF, RUF. Little tiny manufacturer in Germany. It looks like they're making Porsches. They're not. They're making roofs, and the quality of these cars is so over the top and so wonderful that I just get giddy. But if you look up like the roof, like SCR or roof SCR is kind of my dream boat. Yeah. So
SCR.
Yeah. You're kind of looking at it. Yeah.
Oh, but
green
they're Porsches.
They're not Porsches. Okay, so
this is beautiful.
Yes, that it's not. The only thing that shares with the 911 is the glass.
Body.
No. Body's completely different. It's the glass. I think it's just the front windshield and the glass in the mirrors and maybe the rear view, but maybe no, they changed the rear view. It's a carbon fiber body in white.
Okay.
It's the same length as an original 911, but they had to widen it because to make it, you get better traction to make it wider.
Right.
They went and hired Freeman Thomas. So Freeman Thomas designed like the Audi TT, among a million other things, to redesign the body so that it looks like an original 911. So if you'd have to see one next to an original, the door cuts are different, everything's different. But the car is not only are all the body panels carbon fiber, but the actual structure is made of carbon fiber. They build the engine, they build the transmission, they build the wheels, they build the suspension, they build every single thing. in a little town called Pfaffenhausen, Germany. And they start at $1 million. So you're
They
paying for
start
what
at
you
$1
get.
million bucks.
Yeah.
But I guess
But
if the body is and everything's carbon fiber, I mean, we're already.
and again, it's a
Yeah.
proprietary engine. It's a 4-liter. It's over 500 horsepower, naturally aspirated. It's just I've driven I've been very lucky. I've driven 3 of these in the last year or so,
And
and they are just the best in terms of quality. Like you just, and they've been around forever. They were the ones that went 211 miles an hour back in like 1989 or something like that. And again, they look just like Porsches, but the German government realizes they do so much manufacturing that they grant them the title of manufacturer. So
really,
there's nothing, again, like you couldn't, the glass and the mirrors are the only things that will fit a 911. Everything else is roof.
okay, that's
Specific.
so crazy. I have to ask you this. So,
Yeah.
does that mean, like, how does Porsche feel about that, or are they like partnered somehow?
I don't really know how Porsche feels about that. The thing is, roof is so beloved within the Porsche community that Porsche's cool with it. And I think they understand they're doing something Porsche could never do.
Right.
Porsche's never going to build $1 million. Well, adjusted for inflation, one day, of course, a 911 will cost $1 million. But like in today's money,
Right.
they're never going to sell $1 million 911 made out of carbon fiber. You know what I mean? They're just not going to do it.
Right.
And so I think they understand there's a market they're not serving. And
Mhm.
again, Roof makes 30 cars a year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Actually, I know a guy who bought one, and I said, "What was that process like?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "The price is always going up. I just mailed him 30 grand a month until one day they said, 'Stop sending checks. Your car's ready.'" I said, "Cool."
Oh my God, that's so
But
crazy.
they are the like, they're so good. In terms of quality,
Right.
there are cars with a driving experience that's maybe similar, better, whatever. But you were asking about the quality,
Yeah.
and then and I'm only saying this based on one car, but Ferrari with the F80,
My
what they
favorite.
have done is such an accomplishment that I freak out even just thinking about it. And I had 2 days with the car. I wish I had more time.
Oh, I love this thing. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
it is such a masterpiece. It's just everything they know about making cars go fast in one vehicle. And I don't
It's
know how to,
just a work of art, man. Like,
yeah, I don't know how to explain it to people, but okay, it's a little V6. It makes 888 horsepower just from the V6.
how?
So
How?
it's electric turbochargers. So it's a hybrid.
Ah,
The turbos are spun at 130,000 RPM. It makes 55.5 pounds of boost, which is insane. And
yeah.
I tried to do research. There's not a lot of info out there, but I believe the next most boosted car is a Bugatti, which
Yeah.
makes like a production car, and it makes like maybe like 28 pounds of boost. I forget exactly.
Right.
Um, it's just, this is the most extreme road car I've ever driven, and I've driven an Aston Martin Valkyrie. This thing gets it all right, and it's a pleasure on the track. It's a menace on the road. It is the best driving thing I've ever driven. Period. And I just still can't believe I got to drive it. Like, it was. And
So a question actually, because
yeah,
this
yeah,
I just saw this La Ferrari. Where does that fit into your spectrum? Because that's
yeah.
absolutely my favorite Ferrari of all time.
Yeah, I've never driven a LaFerrari. I missed the boat on that one, sadly. But like, just for instance, a LaFerrari made, I forget exactly, like 970 horsepower or something like that.
Yeah.
F80 makes 1250 or whatever
Yeah.
it was. Maybe it's like, maybe it's 1184 is what the F80 makes. The LaFerrari made 1,000 pounds of downforce. The F80 makes 2,300 pounds of downforce. You know what I mean? It's just like,
Yeah.
just
Well, I mean,
pile.
it's 10 years or 20 years later. So,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Look, I love a Ferrari V12. I love a V12.
Yeah.
Don't in fact, I probably love it more than the people that hate me because I like EVs. I love a V12. That said, that little booger V6 in
Yeah.
the F80. Oh my God. It's
Okay.
just, it's so boosted. Like, it's all you do is like worry about redline because it's just there immediately. Like, I've never had a car rev like that.
I got to ask you about the Daytona
Oh,
because because
the new
the
one?
this Ferrari
Oh, the
Daytona.
FP3. Yeah.
This is it very, very closely rivals the LaFerrari as my favorite Ferrari of all time. I just think it's
Yeah.
literally a work of art. Like
Yeah.
I
So
can't.
this is the same platform as the LaFerrari. It's a decade-old platform.
Yeah.
And it's basically the LaFerrari with the hybrid system removed with a great Flavio body. Oh, I think it's incredible. It's absolutely beautiful. I know a guy who has one, and he said I could drive it. I just haven't. I've just been busy. But yeah, I'd love to have a go on this.
Please drive
Uh,
it and then tell
yeah,
me what you think because
yeah.
this
I'm
is like
sure.
the
I'm,
coolest fucking.
uh,
I just look at it. It's like
yeah. No, it's wicked. It's wicked.
yeah.
No, I think that's probably what the LaFerrari should have looked like. Honestly, I think it's absolutely stunning. But it was his first real project at the company. It's yeah, I love the LaFerrari. And again, I'm just talking about quality. When I'm talking about the quality of engineering that Ferrari deployed with the F80 is like remarkable.
Yeah.
I took like 15 pages of handwritten notes at the presentation because every single thing on that car is notable.
Right.
And they got to the tires and they go, I'll never forget this moment. They're like, yeah, so the tires are 3D printed. And I just like put my
What?
pen down and was like, what?
What?
Why would you 3D print a tire?
Yeah.
They said, well, our tires for this car uses 27 different rubber compounds, and you want to really put them exactly where you want them. You got to 3D print them.
What
Traditional
the
tire
fuck?
making techniques
What
aren't that
does
accurate.
a tire like that even cost?
Well, I mean, you're paying $4 million for the car,
That's
so
right. Yeah.
those are other people's problems, my friend.
Yes, of course, of course.
Yeah,
Listen, I can go through car by car with you
yeah, yeah,
all day long, and I don't want to keep you forever. I want to talk to you yesterday when we got off really quickly. You were talking to me about motorcycles.
yeah, yeah.
Tell me about your motorcycle history, just because I'm curious for my own personal.
It's not much of one. I rode a little bit. I had a bad crash. I miraculously was mostly uninjured. Like I went into shock.
Yeah,
My tailbone hurt for a while.
yeah,
Nothing broke. Nothing. I didn't even like tear skin really. It was kind of just. And honestly, because I went into shock, I don't really remember what happened. I know a
yeah.
car pulled out in front of me. I know because somebody told me later as I was sitting there in shock on the ground, a guy ran up. He's like, I'm an attorney. I saw everything. Here's my card. And because I woke up in the hospital with a
What the
lawyer's business
what
card. And
the fuck?
I was like, and the only reason I even said anything, I'm like, can you believe these lawyers? I was in the hospital and like I was
Yeah,
unconscious and they gave me a business card. And then my friend was like, no, that's not what happened. This guy ran up and you talked to him. I was like, I don't remember. And it wasn't even how do I put this? I was just getting into it. It was never
yeah,
a
yeah,
passion of mine. Even though I loved riding bikes as a kid,
yeah,
I never thought about motorcycles. Like I rode them, I rode dirt bikes. Like Honda, like I mean, when I was real little, like Honda 50s and
yeah,
125s, and I rode, ATCs, the three wheelers, and I rode quads. I just was never into it. Just wasn't my
yeah,
thing. wasn't my scene. Um, I lived in San Francisco. Parking sucked, and I was like, "Oh, motorcycle be like, traffic sucked, and
yeah,
motorcycle be easy." And they say, and I hate saying this to you now because I know about your injury, but like well, you're alive, but if you can get through the first year of riding, your
yeah,
odds of dying on a motorcycle go down like 99%.
yeah. I've heard that.
Yeah, and so this was my first 6 months of riding, and I was like, you know what? I
Fuck
used up
this.
my 9 lives
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and,
That's
and
it.
and it was I just had no passion to like get the bike fixed or I don't even
Right,
like I don't even know what happened to the bike. It was this
right.
weird Kawasaki thing. It was like a two-stroke dirt bike that I rode on the street. Don't even ask. Um and I think I bought it for like $350. So it wasn't even like even back then when I had no money, it wasn't even that big of an investment. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like I had a guitar that cost more than that or a bass. So that's really it. I have this weird Swedish electric city bike thing
hmm,
that it's like the idea is it's a delivery bike, so it's like
yeah,
it's kind of cool because it's got a humongous battery. It can go
yeah.
60 miles an hour, and the
That's
battery
pretty
lasts
fast.
pretty fast, and the battery can go like 100 miles. So it's you never have to
Yeah,
charge it. Pretty
yeah.
good. But I fell off that twice.
You're basically riding a motorcycle. I mean, the thing does 60 miles an hour.
Yeah, you can't go on the freeway, but and
Yeah.
look, there was a time I was riding it everywhere, and then this is pretty funny. I fell on gravel, but that didn't hurt that bad. But then I went to go get like dog food or something. It was really convenient because it's a delivery bike, so it has this huge basket on front, so you can get like 2 bags of groceries or pet food or
Yeah.
lunch, So I went to go get something, and my wife had decided to drag like 7 trash bags full of clothes for Goodwill onto the driveway. And you'd have to see my driveway to fully get it, but I make a left into my driveway,
Yeah.
and there's just 7 trash bags where I was about to be riding.
Oh no.
So I slammed on the brakes, and I'm at this very strange angle, like about almost a 45-degree angle, and the bike weighs 190 pounds, and
Yeah.
I didn't put my foot down, so I just fall over, and we had these lights that shoot up our trees at night, and it just like impaled my thigh.
Oh
And I was
no.
like,
My
not
God.
deep, but I was like, God damn it. And I
Yeah.
was like, all right, like, maybe this, 4 wheels good, 2
Just
wheels not.
cars for you. That's it.
Cars for me. That said, I love looking at motorcycles. I don't know anything about them. I'm lucky enough that like I know Jay Leno pretty well, who's got
Yeah.
200 motorcycles, and he's got I don't even, these things blow my mind, but he's got a room full of Brough Superiors,
What's a
which were
Brough
like,
Superior?
yeah, they were Lawrence of Arabia. That was his motorcycle when he rode around
What's it?
Saudi Arabia.
What's it like walking into Leno's collection?
I just did it last week. It's it how do I put this? It's now I'm usually a tour guide because I've done it so many times.
Really?
But when I first went in there, it seemed endless and boundless and crazy. And then I sort of learned most of the cars, not all the
Yeah.
cars, but I learned
Yeah.
most of the cars. And then what you really realize when you're there is, and by the way, if you're ever in LA, I'll take you. It's not a problem.
I'd love to.
Yeah, you'd love it. You'd love it.
Yeah.
But what he's got is he's got all these. So he worked at the Tonight Show, NBC. So he has all these advertisements from like usually mostly pre-war, but some like 60s racing stuff.
Right.
And he had part of his contract was the set guys in NBC would make giant replicas of these advertisements. So his
No
entire
way.
garage is covered in this artwork. And so now I try and spend most of my, because I've seen the cars,
Right.
and some of the cars are a lot more exciting than others, and I know the exciting cars, I know the boring cars, but the artwork, and again, it's just like this would have been ads in magazines from
Right.
before World War II.
Yeah.
You're never going to see them anywhere else.
Yeah.
So it's a real, for me, that's what it's like. I just trip out and I try and look at, like he's got one. It's my favorite. Like the Morgan 3-wheeler. So that was
No.
actually, well, Morgan, there's the little small British sports car company. They make a 3-wheeler,
Okay.
and they actually were making it before the war, real early. I think they started making it in the 20s and maybe even earlier. But it's really cool. But he's got an advertisement for it, and it's like the 3-wheeler sitting on the beach, fancy guy and a fancy girl standing there, and it says the Book of Morgan, and it's just like,
Yeah.
it's such a cool ad, and and it's like 20 feet high by 10 feet wide or whatever, and so it's a real trip, but yeah.
This thing.
Yeah, so they have brand new ones you can buy. They have ones from like 10 years ago, which had like basically a Harley engine up front. That's the brand new one, which has a different engine.
Yeah.
And then they had ones from like before World War II. And I kind of hate 3-wheelers because it's the worst of both worlds. It's like tip over. But also like if you see something on the road and you want to like, I'm going to straddle it so I won't hit it. Well, one of the wheels will definitely hit it. But I have a real soft spot for Morgan 3-wheelers. They're kind of the most fun. I really like that car. And I think Jay has I think he has a pre-war one. He might have both.
I wanted to bring this up real quick because you were
Yeah,
talking about it.
Yeah.
Brough, is this the Brough Superior?
Oh my God. Not that, like the go all the way to the left.
That not this.
Yeah.
This?
Yeah, that. Yeah. So these are like World War I era bikes, and they're all completely hand built, made in England. And the details, if you look at like the engines and the piping and the every solution,
Yeah.
it's so magnificent. And he had like 4 or 5, and he bought a whole collection, and then he actually turned a little parking lot on his building into a new room. just to house the Brough Superior collection, and they're just such works of art. They're absolutely fantastic, and each one's different than the other one, and they're all just these fine little mechanized, wondrous things from over 100 years ago, 110 years ago, and they look like British cafe racers from the 60s. Really, they're so cool.
It's like Jay did what he did just so he could buy cars.
I mean, and he's still buying. The dude he's got to be 75.
Yeah.
He bought the, we talked about this, but he bought the Rolls Royce Spectre. He bought the GTD. He's got a McLaren W1 coming.
Nice.
He's still, and he's driving them all. Like
He's a
I'll
collector.
meet him for coffee. He shows up in a McLaren P1. Like
Jesus Christ.
it's ridiculous. Or
That's
a steam
insane.
car. Who knows?
Yeah.
That's his thing. Is you walk around with him, and he goes, yeah, you can just jump in and start it up. Any car here just starts right up.
Yeah.
And
That's hilarious.
he
man.
prides himself on it. And he takes
That's
a different
crazy.
car home every, like last time I was there last week, he was getting into a twin turbo Miata. I don't know the backstory on it, but it's got Nakaducks on the hood, and that's what he was driving home. Like
amazing.
Yeah.
So is there something, listen, as a bodybuilder, my life is bodybuilding. Like people want to talk to me, what should I do in the gym and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, everything is bodybuilding, right?
Sure.
So as a car guy and, being a writer and, being a review guy all the time, I'm sure everybody just wants to talk to you about cars. Is there something else in your life that you're like, I don't want to talk about cars anymore. Let's talk about this other thing I love.
No, I can always talk about cars forever. I find
Right.
cars kind of what I assume is like you in bodybuilding. I find it endlessly fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
I just love cars. I'm a huge fan of strongman. I love strongman.
I didn't know that. That's crazy.
Oh yeah, huge fan. Yeah. I was blessed for some reason. I was always really strong.
Okay.
Okay.
I didn't know that.
I eat like a pig, but like I can, I like without much training, I'm like I can, rip a deck of cards in half. I can.
No way.
Yeah. I just, my dad had really strong arms. It was just weird. And I inherited, I think from him, I don't know. And like, I used to like, I hate to even say to you, I used to power lift, but
it's okay.
When I was in my 20s, I could lift a lot of weight. You know what I mean? Like I would like a normal workout. I would do, deadlifting. I was over 400 pounds for reps. Like, reps.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I used to be really, really strong. I always had a terrible bench, but good legs, good back, that kind of thing, and strong hands. So I've always loved strongman. I always thought it was like the coolest sport. I'm 5'10", 5'11". I didn't really have a shot at strongman, and my thing was I'd work out super hard for like 9 months, get in awesome shape, and then like quit for no reason.
Why? You just got sick of it?
Know, man.
You get sick of it?
Just
for those of you watching, this is Johnny's Instagram page.
Yeah,
this is
mostly cars.
Some of the cars you talked about driving, but I noticed, and I don't know if you're still posting them, but you were doing some garage workouts.
Yeah. I was having fun. I had a big sandbag, and it was just what it was. I was just like, it was a way to like keep me working out, and then you'll from about neck level, I dropped a 45-pound plate on my foot.
No way.
It really hurt, and I caved in the bone on top of my foot.
It must have been only in your stories.
No, it's there's. Oh, wait, actually, go back for a second. Just go back to where you were.
Wait, let me go back 1 second.
I'll show you something funny though.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, if you look, there's a picture. Okay, it's me, my son, and Evan Singleton, who this was at World's Strongest Man. We went up in Sacramento to the World's Strongest Man finals. Evan sadly tore his biceps, so he was out, but he was like the nicest guy in the world.
Yeah.
And he's 6'6", 360 pounds.
Yeah, it looks like a big dude.
I'm a big dude. He's a big dude.
Yeah. These strongman guys are something else, man.
And he won Strongest Man on Earth a couple months ago.
Really?
Yeah. Wait, hang on. He won. Yeah, the Brian Shaw event.
Strongest Man on Earth, 2025.
Yeah, so he won that.
There.
He's amazing. He's such a nice dude in person too. Like
that's great.
So generous with his time and just a cool guy. So I'm really passionate about that. I kind of not drinking at the way I used to drink, but I used to be really into like bourbon. I got super into that.
1 sec before you move on from
weightlifting.
You said you dropped a 45-pound plate on your foot.
Oh, dude. it was so bad. So my first thought was like, oh shit, they're gonna have to cut my foot off, because the pain was undescribable.
Oh, no.
It was just one of those stupid things where
Yeah.
like somebody had put the 40, I was at the squat rack, I was squatting.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody had put all the 45s up
On the
high
top. Oh.
and they put the 10-pound plates on the bottom, right? So I was just doing this, trying to
Right.
be fast, and
Right.
it just slipped out of my hand, and it was like about head level, and just fell, and it caved in the bone on top of my foot.
No way.
I forget the number. And so I had about a minute of like, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to walk. They're going to cut my foot off. And then I was like, oh my God, I'll never be able to drive again.
Oh
And I had
no.
about,
I didn't think of that.
well, it was like, I make my living driving. So I had about 2
Right.
minutes, 3 minutes of like, I'm not going to be able to make a living,
Right.
And then it was like, okay. And then here's how stupid I am. I finished squatting.
No, that's normal. That's normal meathead behavior. That's what we do.
Yeah. I finished my set, and because it was the top of the foot, so squatting didn't hurt it,
Yeah. Just keep going. Yeah.
And then we went to Japan on vacation, and I walked 20,000 steps a day. And then my wife's just looking at my, me in bed one day. She's like, "Why is your right foot twice as big as your left foot?" I'm like, "Oh yeah,
my God.
I dropped a weight on it." She's like, "You didn't go to the doctor?" I'm like, "Yeah, what's the doctor gonna do?"
It's a foot. They can't do shit anyway.
And you can feel it, like there's like a thumb-sized indent
Yeah.
where the plate hit it, and it was.
Did you ever get an X-ray or anything?
Yeah, it's just crushed. I mean, it healed.
Oh, God.
It was just good old York 45-pounder. Just ting,
I did the same. I did 60-pound dumbbells right on my toe.
Oh, on your toe.
I was doing one arm rows.
Yeah.
This is like, I don't know, 6 months ago maybe.
Yeah,
before my accident.
6 months ago.
Yeah,
okay.
so like I'm doing one arm rows, and then I usually like, I don't know, I was being aggressive, and I was like,
yeah,
when I'm done, you're done your set, you kind of slam the weight down. I have my own gym, so I can do whatever I want. So I'm like,
sure.
So I'm done my set, and I go to slam the weight down, and I slam it right on my toe. And I'm like, immediately I was like, oh my God. And I started freaking out.
Yeah.
And then, so I sat down, I took my shoe off.
Yeah.
And I took my sock off. And when I took my sock off, as I took the tip of my sock off, the toenail went with it, like the whole toenail. So you know what I did? I grabbed the toenail and I put it back as if it was going to like somehow mold itself. Yeah. Mold itself back onto my foot. Anyway, that I went through like a month of like keeping it wrapped and like, but I didn't go to the doctor because I'm like, there's nothing they can do for a broken toe. So I'm like,
yeah, I mean, also men are really stupid, but yeah. But yeah, this wasn't even aggressive. I was just trying to quickly move plates, being, just, I don't know. And again, I have good grip strength, so I can like pinch a 45-pound plate or whatever, no problem. And but it was like, I was sweaty, it was hot, whatever,
it happens.
Just stupid. But yeah, and I was like, I didn't slam it down like you did, but I was like moving it, from here, from my left side, and it fell on my right foot, and just, oh man, it was just like, sucked.
Johnny, I don't want to keep you forever. I do want to ask you though. I know you said you have a love for beer. What is this? Is this a childhood thing, an adult thing? Where did this come from?
I always like beer. It's funny now, and I just, you know how things change as you get older. Like, I can't drink more than like one beer. Just the volume of fizz. For some reason, I can't do it. So I kind of got into bourbon. But I used to, oh man, I was so when I was 19, I love beer. It was illegal. But I noticed in the back of some magazine, you could order a homebrew kit, and it didn't care how old you were. Okay. So my best friend and I ordered a homebrew kit, and we whipped up a batch of poison. And there happened to be a homebrew supply store in the town we were going to school. Yeah. And we went there, and they were really nice. And, we kind of said, is this legal? They go, well, it's legal to buy yeast. It's legal to buy hops.
Right.
Just,
you can't put them together. Yeah.
And it turned out the guy who owned the store was this guy, Byron Birch, and he wrote the book, How to Brew Beer. And so I could ask him questions, and I actually became a pretty decent little brewer. And then I took it. There's a thing called the Beer Judge Certification Program.
Okay.
And I'm a certified judge. Am I a national judge? I might be a national judge. I can't remember. It's so long ago. But like, sounds ridiculous. And you do taste beer, but mostly what it is they'll say like it's an essay test. Yeah. And I've had lawyers tell me it's harder than the the bar test, because it's like, name 4 styles of beer with a starting gravity of 1080 or above. Provide recipe examples of each beer. And it's just questions like that. So you have to really know about how to
Right.
brew every kind of beer. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then you can go and judge. And I've actually been paid to judge beer. And
Wow.
I honestly, there was a point in my life where I was pretty sure I was going to be a pro brewer. Things were just kind of pointed that way. And
Really?
really, when I was sort of like, I was kind of doing the car thing, but I was just making no money. I went and I worked at a brewery for 3 days that
Uh-huh.
my friend owned, and everyone was just kind of bummed that I was there. I don't know why. It was
What do you
just
mean?
weird, but it was just like bad vibe. You ever get bad vibes? You go to do
Yeah.
something and you're like,
Yeah.
you know what, this isn't really for me. And
Yeah.
it was kind of like that. I think it was just sort of like I kind of Bigfooted my way in there because I was sort of this. This is going to sound so stupid, but I was sort of this celebrity home brewer because
Okay.
I had a blog called LA Brewer,
Okay.
and I was just doing all kinds of crazy innovative stuff that no one was doing at the time.
Right.
And I would go, and again, I would go to like beer competitions and people would know who I was because of my
Sure.
little blog thing.
Right.
Um and it really looked that way. And then I just went and I just got such bad vibes. It was like it was
Jealousy. Jealousy sucks.
and it wasn't jealousy. These were pro brewers. They just were like,
Oh, okay.
who's this guy? I don't know.
Yeah.
It was, and my friend was like ignoring me. I don't know. It was a weird, but not that I believe in signs or anything, but I was like, all right, the car thing's going pretty well. I'm gonna have to borrow a lot of money to start a brewery, like
Yeah.
So, and yeah, so yeah, I just always really liked beer, but again, I can't even like. I'm trying to think. I was in Rhode Island and I had like 2 Guinnesses and I was just so full. I was just like, like it's just the volume, which is crazy because I drink diet soda like it's water.
Yeah, but diet soda's not beer. I'm the same way with
It's not
beer. I'm
beer.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's
But I
crazy.
used to, I mean, dude, I used to be able to drink beer.
Yeah.
I just, but honestly, the last like, gosh, 2025, I just have, I mean, I say that like if I'm on an airplane, I'm drinking wine. I love going out to dinner and stuff like that. But like, I got a pretty extensive whiskey collection. I haven't touched it in months. I just don't even
Oh,
think about
really?
it. Yeah. And I'm not anti-alcohol or anything like that. I just don't think about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm more excited. Oh, there's a new flavor of zero sugar Dr. Pepper. Like, oh, you know, let's drink that.
Well, listen, man, I'm pretty sure everybody's happy that you stayed doing the car thing because
Yeah, it
we've
worked
been
out.
watching you. We've been watching you for years, so it's
Yeah,
been awesome, man. But
yeah. I
Johnny,
that Haas. Thank you, man.
I don't want to keep you, dude. I thank you for doing another hour with me today. We
Oh, has it been
we're,
that long? Jeez, it
yeah,
has. Wow.
we weren't supposed to go this long, and honestly, I could ask you car questions forever. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna kind of end it here. I wanted to say thank you very very much
Oh.
for taking the time. You're my first guest on this kind of new podcast I'm
Oh,
doing.
cool.
So
Cool.
I really really appreciate you taking the time out of your
Oh,
busy schedule to
anytime, man. Like, if you want to do it again, this is fun for me.
yeah.
This is I do a lot of I literally did 2 podcasts before I got on with you today. So
Okay.
I like doing podcasts, but this is
Okay.
a different type for me. So this is great.
Yeah.
This
What are
is
they are the other podcasts you do just straight car podcasts?
well, I'm on this one called Spike's Car Radio.
Okay.
So I can't remember if we talked about it or not, but Spike Ferriston, he wrote the Soup Nazi episode of Seinfeld. So
You
he's a
told me
very
that.
funny
Yeah.
guy,
Yeah.
serious Porsche collector, and so that one, like, it's not straight cars, like it's a comedy show, but it's based around cars, but
Sure.
we recorded 2 episodes today. Friday I'm recording 2 episodes of another podcast I do with Motor Trend about the future of cars.
Okay.
It's called The Inevitable. It's a lot of EV stuff, but it's also, we're gonna have Moz, who's the CFO of Singer on, and we're gonna
Okay.
talk about like what
Singer's
Singer's up to.
awesome.
Singer's awesome. Yeah.
Singer's awesome.
Yeah. And yeah, for sure. So we do all kinds of stuff and we talk to
Yeah.
like designers and we're just like, yeah, it's called The Inevitable. The E and the
Yeah.
V are capitalized, EV, but it's just, I always say, where are we going and how are we going to get there? Like, what is the future of automobile, future of
Yeah.
racing, future
Yeah.
of cars? And we did one with like, we had a city planner guy he works for
Okay.
a big architecture firm and they plan cities. So like,
Yeah.
what's the city of the future going to look like? Is it going to be like LA where you can't do anything without a car, or are you going to bury roads and
Right.
things like that? And like, do you do you really want to allow internal combustion cars into parking structures? Like now that we know what we know about like
Right.
lung cancer in children. Like, are
Right.
we, and also like, and again, I love driving, but like, they say like if you driving 1 hour is the health equivalent of like smoking a cigarette. And
I
are we
think
gonna?
so.
That's
Did they
what
really say that?
doctors say. Well, you're just kind of stationary, not doing anything. Instead of
Really?
walking to work, you're driving to work, type thing.
Yeah.
So like, are we gonna one day look back on commuting as like we look at smoking nowadays? Like,
I hope.
40
I
years
hope.
ago we didn't.
I hope not. It's not. It's not.
I'm
Yeah.
just saying. So we just it's a future forward program. Just like
Right.
what are cars? What is transportation going to be like in the future?
So you're still doing stuff with Motor Trend. You're still doing that.
Yeah.
I wanted to show people really quickly before we go.
Yeah.
You're driving with Johnny. Is this your main
Yeah.
your main project?
It's funny. Yes, it is. It's just one of those funny things with YouTube, and I don't know anything about YouTube, dude. But like, we were doing great, and then like we monetized, and suddenly like 90% of our traffic went away.
Yeah. Well, I think people hate watching ads.
Yeah, yeah. And
People really hate watching ads, and I think as soon as you, if you're kind of watching something and you kind of like it, and an ad comes on, you're like, I'm going to see something else is on.
Yeah, yeah. But this was even before we were running an ad. It was just like once we we were doing great when we weren't making any money, and then the second we started. But anyways, the point is, yes, this was my primary focus. I'm recording actually that RS e-tron GT I keep talking about. We're recording that tomorrow. Also tomorrow, our ZR1 video drops.
Oh, nice.
So if you want to watch the Chevy ZR1,
Check
we
that
got
out. Yeah,
pretty cool video. Yeah, it's like a 19-minute video on that. Yeah, and that's a lot of fun. I'm having a blast doing it.
That's good, man.
The money's not there right now, but it's like kind of what we did on this podcast. Honestly, I just get to be the old guy that tells stories.
Right.
Whereas the young car reviewers, they don't have any stories because they're young. And I'm like, oh, I remember when the Jag power steering caught on fire.
Yeah.
And it's fun for me. It's a good time.
Well, I think it's awesome, man. I think
thanks.
I think with YouTube, the main thing I've found is just like the more the better.
Yeah.
But I don't know how that works with cars. I don't know if it's possible to do a
Same.
review.
I mean, we're just, look, we're just plugging away. We're doing 2 videos a week. And yeah, we're right now we're still having fun. So, and I make enough money to like cover like buying my crew lunch. So it's,
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. It's okay.
Well, Johnny, I appreciate it, man. Thank you very much again. And hopefully we get to do this again sometime.
Super pleasure.
And we'll talk to you soon, man. Thank you very much.
All right, buddy. Okay.
Okay, man. Bye-bye.